Metaphysics is going to have to be the quote-unquote religion of tomorrow. If it isn't, you're fucked. Totally and absolutely.
Okay. All right. So we are live. And this is a very special day for us. We don't get a lot of guests. It's usually just the three of us discussing the absurdity of the simulation. But today we do have a special guest, and his name is Devon Tracey, also known as Atheism is Unstoppable, somebody whose videos I've definitely watched over time and enjoyed for the most part, for sure. And I think we're going to have a good time today discussing a bunch of stuff that's happened since you first started going to YouTube. Is there anything that you wanted to start off with here?
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here. I look forward to our conversation. You called me special. I'm wondering if that's like the Olympics or not. You also said that you enjoyed my stuff for the most part. Well, I have enjoyed talking to you for the most part.
Awesome. Well, we here. I think we said we wanted to get started originally with you going through some of the details of how you got into creating content and how you found the particular lane that you occupied once you started.
Oh yeah. What happened? Yeah, I was working just in advertising. I was just working for like Disney and video game companies and Pixar and stuff like that, making ads, doing little animations, graphic design, that kind of thing. And I was traveling the world. I was in South Korea, and I saw a ridiculous movie called Unstoppable by Kirk Cameron. Now, Kirk Cameron, I grew up with him, watching him on the sitcoms, and it was just so buffoonish. It was so stupid that it just was begging to be mocked. And as simple as it is now, and as passe as it is now, no one really publicly mocks religious thought. And YouTube was kind of new. It wasn't like the biggest deal in the world at the time. And I decided, all right, I'm going to make a video mocking this trailer and expressing my thoughts. And it happened to dovetail in with the rise of new atheism and that whole movement, which was really the first time globally or on a big scale we have talked about religion, and where atheists could finally have a voice in that discussion. And so we all pushed back, and we did it with humor, and we kind of found each other on the internet, and the rest was history.
Oh, that's awesome. That's definitely awesome. I mean, like I said, I was watching a lot of stuff. It was definitely informative, and it seems like things just started to change pretty quickly, because I remember watching people like Colin Flaherty, and it was just a lot of stuff that people would say was inflammatory and people had a lot of issue with. But at that time, people weren't just disappearing from social media, from YouTube. That you had a chance to say what you had to say, and people would disagree or get upset about it, but nobody was actually being removed and banned and censored at first. So do you think it was something particular that you did, said, or was it just culture and things changing around you that made it more difficult for you to keep talking the way you were talking?
Oh, well, okay. So first of all, here's the difference. Race is like a game changer. So for an atheist like myself, we are ruffling feathers by talking about beliefs that people hold, very near and dear, but it's a taboo. You're not supposed to do it. You're not supposed to mock people. You're not supposed to push back. Race, the world has no idea how to talk about race. Never have. And so, especially white people, like what is a white person supposed to say about race?
Right.
So I decided to delve into it. Why? Because shit, why did I do that? Well, because the world started talking about it. I actually don't care about it. I don't care about religion. If you talk to anyone that knows me, I never bring that up. Never bring up my atheism. I'm not that guy. I don't bring up race. Never was important to me. And so, but it's important to the world. And what is important to me, though, is people who are unethical and are weak and are cowardly. And so it's just, the situation is filled with so many possibilities of conversations that have never happened before. And so I jumped in. As far as Colin Flaherty, he's a nice guy, and I'm sorry that he's gone. Interesting cat. But yeah, everyone started getting banned because they don't want to hear our message. They don't want to hear anything that's not on script. I mean, it just makes them uncomfortable, and you have to start questioning who's in control, who's making those decisions. And I think we know the answer. They're going to be far leftist, and they're going to be sort of generally anti-white.
Right. It sucks. It sucks to get caught up in that when all you're doing is express. I can see the difference between there's some people who are just outwardly like hateful, evil, and even then, unless you're inciting or giving people directions to hurt other people, I don't think there's a lot of reason to try to get rid of whatever voice you have. But if you just everything I've heard personally from you, it's just like conversational stuff, not like, yo, these are the people I hate. Like that's not what I heard. I just hear you having conversations with people.
Now you know what I always got the impression, because you have gone through quite the gamut of like topics. Like I didn't get put onto you when you were on your atheism shtick, right? When you were making those videos. I found you when you were going hard on the Young Turks and some of the stuff they put out and really trying to connect them and hold them accountable to some of their broadcast and their language that might have led to people who are radicalized going and doing crazy shit. Sure. And when you got into that third rail of race, and the common thread that I've always found with you, that why I think that you're a really sincere person, is that there seems to be a mechanism within you that if somebody is, it's not just that somebody is saying something that's wrong, right? But if someone's declaring something that's wrong and they're doing it in a really like loud and aggressive way, and everybody around just seems to be nodding their head, I feel like any subject where that's kind of out there in the public sphere, I feel like it pokes you, you know what I mean? It kind of compels you to be like, listen, okay, we need to start talking about this.
Exactly. That's you hit the nail on the head. So like, and first of all, the reason I talk about all these issues is because, you know, I have a dream job and I'm basically riffing and filling time, you know, so like there's no guarantee. You make a video, okay, it does well, great, so what? I mean, no one says you can make a career out of this. So you have to keep going. I got 0 writers. I'm trying my best, and I'm literally making it up as I go. But if a topic comes up that interests me, like, you know, Muslim terror, you know, ISIS, we got attacks all around the world back, you know, a few years ago now. And people are going to run apologia for that. They're going to make excuses about that. We're not going to call out Islam for what it is, and we're going to get caught up in, are you saying all Muslims are like this? You know, that whole thing, like, it's just not good enough to be like, stop criticizing Muslims, you're a bigot. And you start to pick up patterns. And so whether it's race, religion, terrorism, you name it, world, it's just, I think everyone's an amateur psychologist. You can't not be. You know, we are sponges, and as we see life unfold before us, the patterns repeat, and instead of getting bogged down in the minutia of the one thing you're talking about, you have to understand the larger thing that's happening here. And you know, people suck, and a lot of people have microphones now that do not deserve to have those microphones, and they're spreading propaganda. You brought up the Young Turks and the fact that they inspired some black dude to go kill 4 cops, one of whom was black. Now, I raised the race of these people only to show, my main point is, I don't care about the race. It could have been anyone. It could have been a Korean guy, a white guy. I don't care about the color of the race of anything, of any of this stuff, but clearly people do. And they need to be called out for that. Like, what does race have to do with your moral compass? If I say to you, a guy killed a girl, and you go, okay, well, what were the races involved? I'm like, what? We're really going to do that? And people do. Yes, they really do that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I was saying, we've spoken about that before, and we've all said, when you hear those kind of things, if you need the races of the people involved, I feel like, I can just say you're a scumbag.
Right.
It just is what it is. If you need to know the races, if you hear a cop killed somebody yesterday, well, what color was the person he killed? All right, well, you're a scumbag. I'm pretty sure I can say that confidently.
Man, I mean, racial allegiance, racial tribalism, it is, you cannot underestimate the power of that. I mean, that is some deep-seated stuff. And, you know, I think a lot of white America, you know, I'm an ambassador of white people, just so you guys know. I'm a goodwill ambassador, because no one can speak on our behalf.
Of blackness, so you good.
Good. But like, you know, everyone's petrified, everyone's fearful, and rightfully so. You will get the fuck canceled out of you, and you will be, you know, your money will be affected, and your social standing, and your ability to mate. Like, women will run for the hills if you are controversial and if you say anything. And white people merely mentioning race as a thing, if you say white people, and if the next word out of your mouth is not something disparaging white people, or saying we're sorry for X, Y, and Z when we had nothing to do with it, then people just do not want to hear that. And ironically, we don't even care about it. It's true. Our white identity doesn't mean jack shit to us. Compare that to anyone else, Jewish, Asian, Black. That identity matters. Like, what is the white version of Black Panther? What movie do we go
South Africa?
to no, where do we go to see a movie where we're like, man, look at all this great whiteness on the screen?
Superman.
Like, no, maybe Game of Thrones.
Superman.
Yeah, definitely Game of Thrones, Superman,
Captain America.
Lord of the
Thor,
Rings.
I guess you could
X-Men?
argue Thor, but there's
Thor.
not the same kind of fanfare around
Look,
it. Like-
look, it's accidental. Like, Game of Thrones happened to not have any blacks in it, but like, no one really cared.
Star Wars.
Oh, let me think on that. There's no
Wars.
blacks in Star Wars. Well, Lando.
In the beginning.
Yeah, Landau.
It took them 3
Calrissian.
movies, right? Or 2 movies.
Well,
I
but
don't
then
know.
you guys, the blacks took over Star Wars, and like they went way the other direction.
Yeah.
got-
the
You
black
have
kind of
to.
fucked
I
up
mean,
Star
you
Wars.
could-
No,
a
you
we,
little
have
we,
bit.
we got the purple lightsaber. Like,
Yeah,
so
purple
that's-
lightsaber was pretty cool, but the blacks did kind of fuck up Star Wars just a little bit. Just a
But see,
little bit.
I take offense to my English heritage because like English people are the bad dudes in Star Wars and in every other movie, and no one has a problem with that. It's just like whatever. You guys are.
I think that's more of an American movie making Hollywood thing where they just
Mhm.
everything, if it sounds smart, they have to make it Englishman. I don't know
Right.
why.
That's true.
That's something I've also realized
Yeah.
is across the board, if you have a white hero and a white villain, nobody sees that as it's just it's just a movie. But if
Mhm.
you have a black villain, then you're disparaging black people. If you have a
Exactly.
black hero and a black villain, you still are disparaging black people with the black villain. It's like, well, why he got to be selling crack? It's like, well, he's the bad guy though. So that nobody wants to see black people in any role other than the hero, the people, unless you go all the way left and do like a Tyler Perry movie or something like that. Then you could do whatever you want. Nobody holds him accountable for anything.
Bro, nobody holds him accountable for nothing. Nothing.
Tyler Perry.
It's
could do
crazy
whatever
how
he
we're
wants.
having like all these like sex change talks, and like he was like the first person to like have like, he's wearing women's clothing and all that. I'm like, none of y'all find this as a problem, and it's just nope.
Yeah.
Trucking and
No, if
jiving.
anything, he was ahead of
Trucking
the
and
curve.
jiving.
Yeah, he was ahead of the curve.
Well, what about Martin Lawrence? What does he have? Shanae?
Oh,
Big
yeah,
Mama?
Shanae,
that's
yep.
true.
Shanae, yep.
And Big
Or even-
Mama's House.
Jamie Foxx was doing that in Living Color.
Yep.
Wanda.
Wanda,
I
yep.
personally have never seen that as like that's like a lot of people see that as when especially when a black person, a black man wears a dress or does any type of thing like that. It's like, oh, it's over. They got him. They took him to the casting couch. Like all these things start coming up about what happened to him. And I just
So what
never
happened
saw
to the
it like
Isley
that.
brothers? I want to know that first because they started that off.
I never seen it like that.
Look at
never
their
in my
album
life.
covers and look at their outfits.
Oh, well,
Rick
that's
James,
different. That's
Rick
different. You can't
James,
keep-
Prince.
Those are stars,
Prince.
though. Those are stars.
Yeah, there's
Those
different
are-
rules.
it's different
That's what I'm
rules.
saying. So I'm just confused by these rules, and
The
I don't
rule-
know.
That means there are no rules. You just do
So-
whatever you want to do.
because I know if I dress like Prince, bro, I'm getting clowned off the rip.
No, you I don't. Well, maybe not in this environment. Maybe when we were kids. When we were kids, you would have got beaten up. Now, I think you would have been an
But
influencer.
Purple Rain is like
Yeah.
the most greatest thing to watch. Is like, I don't know.
Yeah, Prince.
I don't know.
You can only get away with it if you go all the way. You can't try to play both sides. You can't like wear a dress or do anything feminine, but then you want to like high five the guys on the corner with the 40 ounces. Like you got to pick a side. You can't be in the middle. Prince wasn't hanging out with any other guys except like Morris Day.
Hold on.
That's it.
I'm blanking on Prince. How did Prince die?
Opioids. He was hooked
yeah.
to them pills.
Yeah.
Really? So he died
Yeah.
pretty young.
Yeah.
I think he was in his 50s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. In his 50s.
Yeah, drugs will do. I mean, hey.
Same thing with Michael Jackson. All them.
Yeah.
Party,
Damn.
party life, man. That shit'll get you, bro. When
We
you
call it Hitler on
Hitler on meth.
meth. We call it Hitler on meth. When these rich, powerful people just do the craziest things.
Do you
gotta-
think Kanye's going to live for the next 5 years?
I
I
so.
hope so.
I think so. I
Yeah?
think so. He's just like the black Israelites in Brooklyn. We hear him, we think about it, but he's just there.
Okay, so then what is the general temperature in the black community when it comes to Kanye and how ingratiated he is with you guys? Like, do
It's
people-
50-50 to me so
Mhm.
far, from what I'm gathering.
Yeah, he's very polarizing.
Yeah.
It's not the same fanfare and well wishing he had when he, George Bush doesn't care about black people. I think there was a solid 95%.
But the Hoteps are still holding on strong because he proved everything about the powerful Almighty Jews. He proved it.
Right, but so that's crazy. The Black Hebrew Israelite movement. Like, where do you guys stand on that? Like, why are those guys so numerous?
I think they got great outfits.
That's definitely number one on the list.
And it's entertaining. It's very entertaining when they make white people kiss their feet. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. But other than that, I don't stand in it. Like, to me, like, it's all bullshit at the end of the day, because it's like, I understand you want to know who you are and where you come from, but like, if you're an alcoholic, you're an alcoholic. Like, God's not gonna come down and be like, all right, man, you're a Jew, so alcoholism is gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody forgets about like the part where of the religion where it's like you have to change yourself for the better. They just get all in the hubbub of like the clothes and the outfits. Well, Pharisees.
I'll give Hebrew Israelites their respect in that aspect, because most of the ones that I see who get most of the attention are very, very diligent about who they let in and what they require of you to remain part of their camp or whatever they call it, because they don't take no shit. They're not about, most of them are not about no drinking and doing drugs and no thug shit. They're like, yeah, you can come in here, that, you can have multiple wives, but you're gonna handle your business, you're gonna pay your dues, and they're definitely not with the bullshit. So as far as the improvement and having standards of who they let in, they definitely hold that up way more than the average black church. Black church don't give a shit. The deacon's gonna bang your wife.
Most definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Hebrew Israelites are a little bit different. They seem to be a little bit different, with the exception of a few camps here and there. I personally think the reason that it's so attractive is because it's they're telling a black God story. It's the same reason that the Egyptologists in the hood are so popular, because they're telling you that Negroes built the pyramids and the black woman is God. That's what we wrap those all up in the word called Hotep. We call them Hotepers. And
we call them Hotep Rogans. Just say it backwards. Don't say it out loud.
Hotep Rogans, basically. And I think that's what it is. It's a reverse narrative. It's saying, if you look at the world hates you, white people hate you, you were enslaved, but actually you're God and you're the controller of the entire galaxy, and your melanin makes you magic and shit like that. And at a certain stage of psychological development, that shit sounds awesome. At a certain stage of development, when you go to school and the first introduction you get to the idea of a Negro is slavery, and then you go outside and somebody tells you that you're a black God and black woman is God, you're like, oh shit, this is
addictive.
Cool. It's absolutely addictive. But then eventually you got to start putting some higher level thinking into it. They're basically just using the book against some other people who were using the book. They figured it out. They're like, hey, this book says God has a favorite race, and I'm going to say that favorite race is us. It's my war against yours.
Prove me wrong.
I think there was some precedent set, too, where it became a really attractive prospect. Like, any kind of discipline that you apply yourself to, whether it's real or not, it could be based on bullshit, but you're really applying yourself to studying something. You're really applying yourself to doing the same thing every day over and over and over. So you see this immediate benefit. So it kind of affirms it, because then you associate the improvement in your life with that belief. Like, oh, this belief is working for me. Look how much orderly my life is. So that aspect of it is for a bit of a positive. But where like the controversy comes in with the race shit is, I think black people look at European Jews in America and are like, okay, we had slavery, you guys had the Holocaust, you guys got a whole country after all of your bad shit. We don't feel like we got what we should have got after slavery. So I think that mindset in people kind of makes it really attractive to just step and say, okay, well, this has really worked for them. Let's find a way to make it work for us. We'll be the heroes of the story. And there is, like, if you're a European Jew, like, I know when I've gone around people in like the evangelical community, like, you're treated like you're magical, like, oh, you're God's chosen. It's really, really special. And that maybe it's not as prevalent anymore, but it was definitely something that seemed pretty ubiquitous in American consciousness, like this reverence and regard for Jewish people in the Christian community. And I think Black people saw that, and it became like a, I think it just became a really attractive thing to pursue. Like, hey, we don't feel like we got what we should have got after slavery. Jewish people seem to have navigated it better. Maybe if we co-opt this identity, it's gonna be a better path for us.
Huh. Yeah, it's pretty complicated. It's interesting that there is that hunger and that need to have some divine importance, and the cognitive dissonance that must come into play when people start to realize this is not true. None of it's true. But I look at the rabid nature of, like, even the Nation of Islam and how Blacks in America gravitated towards that, and their adoption of Christianity, which was the slave owners' religion that was taught to them on the plantations. And they're like, oh yeah, we're against slavery, but we'll keep the religion for some reason. Like, that to me is a little bit odd.
It's because of the text. Once the slave owners taught us the book, but the book didn't come from them. So it's just, they still have to agree, like, if they're going to go through with this religion, they have to go through with all the texts.
Now, you mentioned Jews versus Blacks, and you said sort of like after the Holocaust they had their own country. Where is the idea of Blacks having their own country? Is that the logical conclusion to take from that comparison?
Well, I think that there's if you talk to some people, they'll bring it up as a sore point, and there's a juxtaposition, and usually too, like in a lot of these PC conversations, like those are really the biggest third rails. Like, don't talk about Black people, don't talk about European Jews. Like, it's some of the, so I think I don't know. I feel like there was some kind of calculation, but I don't know. There's an undeniable tension but between the two communities. Like, even in, when you're talking about, like, you brought up the Nation of Islam, white people are the devil, right? But Jews are specific, like a special kind of devil, so it's like,
Jews
we
are
hate
the devil that even the white people think are the devil.
Right. We hate, Nation of Islam perspective is like, yeah, we hate white people, but we really hate white Jews. So there is definitely that just intense that animosity there. And I don't know.
Doesn't it feel like the currency is hate and blaming and scapegoating? Oh, yeah. It all feels counterproductive. Like,
it's just nan boo boo, man. That's all it boils down to. It's just, you have this, I don't have this. It's just it's tribalism at its best. It's people forget that at the end of the day, you need to fix yourself and be better. And it's just a bunch of bullshit at the end of the day.
Yeah, I can feel that, because it's like it just feels bad for business. Like, if you say, who are you? Well, we're a group, and what defines you? Well, we hate these other people. It's like what about you? Who are you?
But look, we live in a world where Scientology, right? So we could debate Judaism, we could debate Muslims, we could debate Christianity, but we live in a world where a man who wrote science fiction books can create a religion and people believe it. And like,
it's a great world. That's a great world to live in. That's a great world to live in.
Published science fiction books and made a religion out of it.
But that's also kind of the animus of why we framed all this in the context of a cult. Like, you would love to believe that you could just go to people and just say, hey, can we just use our rational mind and be reasonable and analyze these problems and speak soberly about them, and then really just be pragmatic about cultivating a solution together that works for everybody and takes everybody's needs and interests into consideration? Like, nobody cares. But if you tell them to do all of those same things, and there was some creature that visited you in the mothership and beamed you up and told you to do it, or handed you the gold tablets,
bro. Eat it up.
That's it. It's just something hardwired into human beings that it seems to work. And you figure out when you're fishing what gets the most fish. And yeah, in the Nation of Islam, like, there's people within it that's just the bottom line. Like, how can I fucking hate white people more today? But for other people, it's like, look, I was selling drugs, I was in shootouts, I was being a knucklehead, and now, I started my own business. I'm very disciplined. I'm taking care of my kids. I married my wife. You know what I mean? So there are there are people that get some, and it goes back to, we were saying earlier with the Black Hebrew Israelites or anything else. Once you apply some sort of discipline to your life, and just your life is going to improve. But people seem to gravitate to the mythical stories as being the best way to get them in that mindset and ready to make changes and ready to do work. But like I said, if you go to them and just say, hey, these things will improve, nobody gives a fuck. But if you give them this huge epic fucking story and as the rationale behind why we need to do these things that'll improve people's lives, you just seem to get more buy-in. I just feel like it's hardwired into humans, and I've seen it. It just seems to be the most effective tool, and that's why politics is kind of taking on these religious overtones now. And look, the public space is more political than ever. Social media is all political, commercials are all political, entertainment, sports, everything now is super political. There's become like an evangelical element to politics now, and it's more effective.
I heard it's worse in Brazil too. I heard it's worse.
This is what the movie Book of Eli is about, and that's the basis of the whole thing. This guy is the apocalypse. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. The post-apocalypse, everything's fucked up. This guy already has what seems to be hundreds of Mad Max thugs working for him. They're going out doing missions and bringing shit back. He has complete control, but he doesn't trust the longevity of his control unless he can get his hands on a Bible. He's already in control. The world's fallen. People are cannibalizing each other. He's like, but if I get that fucking Bible, son, it's a wrap, because he knows it's a story that humans cannot separate themselves from. And not necessarily the Christian biblical story itself, but that whole concept of the God and what it wants from you, and does it have rules? And like you said, when you feed people that kind of narrative, for some reason they can just attach to it in a different way. So much so, people that want to escape Christianity, they just find other ways to do it. They can see a person who's gay, who was raised in a church, and can hear fire and brimstone in the hood talking about a man who lay with a man should be put to death. So instead of throwing the religion away, they go, you know what? My God says you can be a gay preacher. So I'm just going to open my own church, and we're going to have rainbows and shit. And it says women should keep quiet and don't usurp authority for a man. You know what? In my church, women can run the church and will usurp all the authority from men.
Or you just apply that same religious fervor to the LBGT, agenda.
Right. The ones who can most successfully disconnect themselves from it, they walk away, but use the same kind of hoopla to win favor in their own crowd. But a lot of people will just water it down so they can hold on to it. Even the witches in the new age, people who buy the crystals, and like us, I mean, we rock with that shit for our own reasons, but people who go buy tarot cards and all of that, that thing is still framed in a way that they can't let go of the monotheism, and you can't completely walk away. You need something.
So, you can't go on a date with a girl these days and she throw out what's your astrological date and all that bullshit. It's ridiculous.
They're love language, man. She's got to know what's up. If you're a Libra, why even waste my time?
That's what I'm saying. This is why you can't find nobody.
Yeah, I think there's one thing that we can conclude is the power of belief is real and it works. We also know the placebo effect works medically and just in life. So being right or wrong doesn't even matter. And you could tie this into biology. Look at evolution. Look at Darwinism. We are here not because this is the right way to be or to look or to navigate life. It's because it worked. That's it. Giraffes have long necks because it works. They get to the branches up high and they eat, and then they mate. So yeah, it's a little bit depressing, but I do hear you when you say that humans need to be attached to something a little bit bigger than themselves, something to frame our existence in life.
Yeah, man. Look, you can go to Thailand right now. There's an empty monastery right now, going for the low, because the monks decided that to get to enlightenment they needed meth.
Really? Yeah, that might be one of my favorite stories. Did you hear about that one where somebody came through and I guess tested all the monks, and then everybody in the temple I guess got defrocked or whatever they call it. Like they cleared everybody out because every single one tested positive for meth. I feel like it'd just make them more productive.
And how do you determine to kick them out? Weren't they doing this for years. How does that one little taking meth stop it all? I'm just confused.
Well, you guys opened Pandora's box with that. What do you guys think about, like, I mean, what does the epidemic of drug use just across the board, what does it say about our plight? You know, what, or modern life? Like, what
It
are we
sucks
doing?
here on Earth.
Escapism.
Escapism, man. We're building virtual worlds to escape reality right now, man. It's not even, we don't even need drugs at this point.
With the metaverse?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's escapism. I think people, the more convenience we try to build into our system, the worse off we are. And I think that's just the way that humans have learned to solve problems. They solve them in a way that creates 5 other problems, and then solving those 5 other problems creates jobs. And as you solve those 5 other problems, 30 more arrive. Like, that's just the way they do it. It's like the drug commercials. Yes, this will stop you from having herpes, but it's going to give you explosive diarrhea, and your heart's going to stop. So
Right.
if you don't want to have explosive diarrhea and your heart to stop, you need to take 3 other pills. But then those 3, it's just a cascading effect to where nobody's ever like out of work. Technically, we talked about this before. I saw a video where some guy pulled a screw out, he filled in the screw with a weld, and then he sanded the weld, and then he tapped another hole and put the same screw back in it. That created 5 jobs. If he would have just left that screw there, that means those other 4 guys don't get to work. They got nothing to do, and we need data. We need people moving around and doing shit. So let's just do it this way. There's a light bulb right now that has been a live streaming for years, and the light bulb's been on for almost 100 years. It's just been on, and there's a live camera on it right now. You can find it. But we choose to make light bulbs that die in 6 months because they're like, what am I going to do? Sell you one light bulb and then go out of business? No, I'll just make a worse light bulb. Planned obsolescence. This is what they do. So and it makes sense because it's like, if you have a chance to start a business, I'm gonna sell somebody a product that they never have to replace. Okay, so you sell 1 million of them and then you're out of business because they're gonna pass it down to their grandchildren. How do you sell more? And Walmart
Totally.
is like, yeah, I'm gonna give you something that cracks in 6 months. You gotta come back and get another one.
I just did a video that reminds me of about the ADL, which is, you know, this Jewish special interest group, where their whole thing and their business model is the more anti-Semitism, the more money we make.
Yep.
And so they find new ways to report more and more anti-Semitism because that gives them more and more money. They make almost 300 million a year in donations, and it's like, these are the last people on the earth who are going to actually do something about anti-Semitism because they need it and they want it.
Yeah, it's built into the system.
And racial division, you could say the exact same thing with Young Turks or any of these race baiters.
Yeah,
they
Black
profit
Lives
off
Matter. Black Lives Matter, the same thing. Private prison. What happens if the world gets better and crime goes down? We got to find new ways, new jailable offenses. What am I going to do? Close the prison? No, find ways to put more people in it. They're already suing the government for when prisons are not filled enough. If it's below capacity, you can sue the government for the difference. How is that trying to solve anything other than putting money in your stockholders' pockets?
What do you think about this idea? You said we solve one problem, we create 5 new ones. I would say the internet was good for a few reasons, but it also created maybe 5 million problems.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That's just the way humans do things here. That's our footprint. That's just how we move. And I don't think it's at some level in business, you figure out if you do it too well, you won't get repeat customers, and so it's up to you to do that math and to see how far into integrity you want to operate. Are you going to do it to where it's a fault and you lose from it, or do you just back off a little bit, like I'll make it last a little bit? Like, you have to make that decision. But on a personal level, I don't even think people are really aware of it. They're just moving, they're just doing stuff. Most people aren't applying higher thinking to the stuff that they're doing. They're on autopilot, and their autopilot is being fed by the all of their life experience. Everything they've been through is informing this snap decision. A guy almost cuts me off at a red light. There's no accident, and nobody got hurt, but everything that's brought me to this moment says that I need to hop out of my car and spit on this guy and threaten his life. People aren't, they're not thinking that this is the best way for me to go about my day. It's just impulse snap decisions, and that's the shit that just creates more and more problems. Which why we need, not need, but why escapism is so powerful. The drugs, the metaverse, the scrolling on TikTok, that's why it's so powerful, because it takes your brain off of what the Buddhists call the wheel. You're just on this wheel, thinking about, oh, tomorrow, how am I going to pay my bills or whatever, at any level, from poverty to the people who are doing well in business. Now you got to think about how you're going to keep it all. So everybody's doing all of this computing constantly, and it's stressful. So what do? You just find a way. These things are designed to give you dopamine hits and make you feel good about yourself. They got the filters. The filters used to just go on the pictures. Like you would take a picture, you put it on Instagram, and then you can do the filters to make it look cool. But now the filters are plugged directly into the camera.
They're telling lies.
It's
They're
in the
telling
camera
lies.
now. So when you look at
Destroying
yourself,
the community.
when you look at yourself on camera, the filter's already on you.
So maybe all this escapism, it's like jumping from one lily pad to the next. You're just going from one escape to another, and that is your life. Like you never get out of that. Yeah. It's just the grass is always greener, and it's always a mirage. Yeah. I mean, I'm listening to Sam Harris where he'll talk about meditation and stuff like that with the Buddhist influence, and he's basically saying you're all in the matrix and you're all NPCs and you barely know it, and you're not even aware of your own sense of self, like, or the present moment. I mean, we are dominated by the past and future, and it's kind of crazy that religion tries to tap into this and try to give people a perspective on it. The medical industry has no idea what they're doing, overprescribing all sorts of drugs for all sorts of problems. We got major problems in terms of mental health going on. And the symptoms of that are, you could say crime or what else, suicide rates or the drug epidemic, all that stuff. No one's really solving these problems, and they're pretty massive. So it's kind of like every man for himself out there at this point. But maybe that's just me being dark.
No, it's crabs in the barrel. Most definitely. Yeah. It's crabs in the barrel.
Absolutely. And the most important thing about the crabs in the barrel idea is that we just got to always keep in mind that the barrel is not the crab's natural environment. Crabs don't do that to each other in the wild.
Now, what are these crabs doing in the barrel?
Somebody put them there to cook them. They're just waiting to get cooked. And if you see one crawling out, the other ones grab them and pull them down. They're like, nah, son, where you going? You think you're going to hop over the side of this barrel and leave us here? They pull each other down. They say, fuck that. If we not all escaping, you ain't going by yourself. But they don't bother each other in the wild. It's the barrel that triggers that behavior.
Go ahead.
What if I viewed it like this and I said, it's a grim way to look at it, but we are escaping from the raw, naked truth that we are on this rock in the middle of space and we're all dying. And we got to scramble to find meaning and purpose and some sort of life satisfaction, and we're on the clock, and it's hard. Yeah. Is that the general reason that we're kind of in the pressure cooker here?
Yeah, absolutely. Which is why the religion, the promise of another life after this one, like all of these things are super attractive. Super attractive. That's why. Because people, it's a lot to deal with to say this is just it. Nothing really matters can be the most beautiful phrase you've ever heard or the darkest and scariest phrase you've ever heard, depending on what your mental alignment is at the time. If you say nothing really matters, that means fuck it, nihilism, I'll just kill myself. Or nothing really matters means it's all a blank canvas and I can assign value to anything I decide to assign value to. But I think that takes work to get there.
We're also in a new wave too, because we also have to remember, like, all these ideas and these thoughts, they're not old, but cameras and recorders and digitized things is new. So it's like we don't even know what's going to happen now at this point, because before we build and we forget. Now it's like we're building and we're not forgetting at this point. So it's like now, we want to go to Mars. We want to go to the moon. We could live on a planet off Jupiter. Like it's a whole new thing at this point.
Oh yeah, I think what you're hitting on is like technology plus man does not equal a good thing. It never has. We always misuse it, and this is why I view modern life as being a big episode of Black Mirror, which is, they're trying to warn you what happens if you can do something. If we have new technology, what are we going to do to mess it up, and how could it adversely affect us? And I think that's really the story. And we're so close to it. We're in it right now. But 50 years from now, people are going to go, damn, look what happened to society when the internet came, and it fundamentally changed how people go about their days, how they do business, how they communicate. We're going to have more perspective on it from standing outside of it for a few decades.
We'll be looking at it the same way we looked at ancient Greece. Like, it was so great, and then it collapsed. What happened? Eventually, we'll just come to the conclusion that the common denominator is humans. but that's
Yeah.
just me.
Well, I
It's
think
like,
that that's the value of ethics or religious teaching, because hey, we know how to do this, but if we don't have our moral compass like properly calibrated, then yeah, we're gonna always use technology for really horrific things. And I think also too, you got to consider if how does our consumeristic society work, and how much of the market are you going to wipe out overnight if you suddenly have happy fulfilled people?
Mm,
Happy fulfilled people just aren't running out to buy shit that they don't need.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's the truth. Absolute truth. Most of the things that we have at our disposal right now would go away overnight. Billion-dollar corporations would collapse just from one thing. Just
Just
if
the ass injection industry.
just that
Let's
alone.
think of,
If
Mhm.
people woke up tomorrow and looked at their bare faces in the mirror and said that I'm okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
Billions and billions of dollars go down the drain. Intergenerational wealthy empires go down the drain tomorrow because people like themselves. That's a fucked up pillar of society. Like that's holding up society. The lack of self-love is a major pillar of modern society.
the Simpsons did that, didn't they? Lisa wished for for peace, and then the aliens came because they didn't have weapons.
Yeah. That's the thing.
So-
Everybody's got to
Yeah.
agree at the same time or you're fucked.
Yeah.
So people profit off of the chaos, and therefore the chaos is a feature. It's not a
Yeah.
bug.
Yep.
And I guess governments, and when we are sober and people can get together and decide, look, we know how humans are, so let's institute a structure or laws or a system that combats that, because otherwise it's predictably going to fail, and self-interest and vanity and pride and all the human foibles, all that stuff, they're gonna reign supreme.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Look, one thing I could tell you, bro, I'm a black man and I'm not fucking leaving America, bro. Cause one thing I could agree about this country is the laws work.
Mhm.
Like, you have people like, let's go back to Africa. Let's go back. I'm like, nah, son, like, cause
Hold
if
on.
I buy a house there, man, who's to say they want their land back?
Have you guys
Who?
been to Africa?
No.
No. I have family that's gone, but I haven't.
Do you have any desire or?
If you want to know the truth, I don't have any desire like that Lion King thing. I really don't have that desire.
Lion King thing.
because
That's
Africans
racist.
Africans don't give a fuck about the diaspora.
Yeah, that's
They just
true.
like our money. They
Right.
just like our money. At the end of the day, they just like our money.
But
They
that's
don't
what's
give a
so.
fuck. They don't give a fuck about the diaspora. But I do like to travel and I do like to go see things. And one thing I can say, and I don't know if I'm ashamed of it or proud of it, but one thing is like I've been in the hood before where it's just black people and it kind of feels good.
Mm.
Cause like like when you fuck with the police a lot because of your skin, and then like you go to an area where it's like everybody looks like you, but even though it's still fucked up because you still can't trust people because of their color, because people are still evil, but it's just like I don't know, man. It's just like deep down in your DNA. I guess it feels better. I don't know.
Yeah, people definitely self-segregate, like on a cellular
Yeah.
level. If you invited 500 people to a free lunch and just let them pick their own seats in the auditorium, very, very likely people would separate themselves by race. That's just kind of what happens. I don't have any desire to go to Africa because I refuse to assume camaraderie with anybody because of their skin color. Like I don't think people would treat me any better in Africa than they would if I went to Brazil or Thailand or anything. What reason would they have to be like, oh, this guy, I'm gonna be nice to this guy? They're gonna spank your ass because you're a tourist. They
Yeah, exactly,
they
bro.
gonna get whatever
Oh, you
they
an
can.
American in my land? Okay,
Yeah.
son.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
I don't
Yeah.
really have much desire for it.
But it just doesn't matter. It's like, white people and our identity being in a majority, especially depending on the community you're in, it just becomes this irrelevant thing. It's just like white noise. It's like, okay, you're white, so what? Who cares? So if you go to Senegal, England just beat Senegal this morning in the World Cup, and it's like, Senegal is not going to be impressed that you're black. You're going to go over there, expect to be hugged and like,
Right,
oh, welcome to like, oh my God, a black brother from America. It's like, we're all freaking black here. It means nothing.
Right.
Like, what are we doing? So, but then it gets to the core of why do we have this impulse to feel, well, belonging, but also to feel special? Like, there's something about me that just makes me this prince of a guy. Like I'm a king, or I come from kings, or like it's like no, you have to do something yourself. Like, you cannot just rest on your identity and just throw that card out or play that card and wave that flag. It's like, to me, it's really unimpressive when people do that.
It's more escapism. And we talk about that a lot too. If you're taking credit for anything you didn't personally earn yourself, it's like pride and all of that. That goes from saying I'm proud to be black to I'm proud that I'm 6'4", or I'm proud that I got big boobs. Like, you didn't do that though. You know,
Exactly.
like, if you didn't actually do it, taking pride in it it's a trap. It's a trap, and it's going to force you. It's going to give you a path to judge other people who you think haven't accomplished something that you didn't even accomplish yourself. So you can look down your nose at people now because they didn't build the pyramids, but you did. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But it allows you to escape your present moment, which is what we're great at, escaping the present moment. Like you said, we're plagued by the past and the future. Those are the two things we ponder more than we do our present. So if it allows you to escape the suffering of the present, then yeah, you can look back and imagine yourself as everybody was a pharaoh. Nobody was a slave. Everybody was a prince. Nobody was a freaking bread dealer in the town square.
And it's all in Egypt.
Oh yeah, everywhere, no matter where it is. Yeah, all in Egypt, ancient Egypt.
Egypt is the biggest part of Africa.
I was. Go get your palm read. Go to the lady with the crystal ball. Yes, you were a prince. Everybody was a prince. Nobody was a leper.
Never was a slave, not once. Like, there's been so many civilizations crushed and brought back to not once.
My spirit has been spinning around on this 3-dimensional block for 11 million years, and every single time I was a prince. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's just logistically sound, right?
Now, one of the things that we give as an example of all of that madness and culture is the light bulb test, where you can have a black dude and a white dude arguing about who invented the light bulb, but then point out to both of them that neither one of them can explain how a light bulb works or make one. But there's just this impulse. No. Somehow I'm gaining something if the person that came up with this looks like me a little bit. And it really is. It's not a true achievement, and it is a type of escapism, right? Because then you don't have to do any self-work. You don't have to progress, as an individual, but you're living off the vicariously the fame and achievement of somebody that kind of looked like you. It's really silly when you think about it.
Yeah, the whole thing is like, my dad can beat up your dad, and like that's it's like.
Yeah, there's a dude on YouTube right now who has 2 felonies and 3 baby mamas saying he taught white people science. I taught y'all how to bathe. Like, bro, you barely managing your own existence today. How are you taking credit for something that theoretically happened 7,000 years ago? But it feels good. It's opiates. It's spiritual opiates. It just feels really good. You could just get high on some shit you had nothing to do with.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll take that to the next level, because I think it comes from a place of frustration, where people that are going to make those arguments are people that are not satisfied in their own lives or accomplishments. Guys in the black community who don't say this shit, Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, Lil Wayne, like these guys don't go around. They're like, I don't know about you, but I have like $100 million and I'm world famous and totally accomplished. So no, I didn't build the pyramids, and no, I don't think we built the pyramids, and no, I'm not going to give an excuse to like the rampant crime in our community, like, or the parenting disaster going on. Like, those guys are willing to say that because of who they are and what they've achieved personally. They don't have to latch on to those narratives, and I notice that, and I see that, and they'll be called Uncle Toms or whatever because they're off script. But it's like, I don't know.
No, it's true. It's absolutely true. We talk about this a lot. Coons conquering our own negativity. The people in the black community have decided that some of the most positive qualities a human can have belong to white people.
Well, it's funny. I remember Lil Wayne, I think it was in the height of like 2020 or whatever, and they asked him, can you jump on board with this? What do you say about all this? How can we say Black Lives Matter and sort of F the whites? And he's like, I don't know about you guys, but I got shot in the stomach at some point, and the cop came, and he was a white guy, and he basically saved my life. And when you go to one of my concerts, I look out in the crowd, and it's mostly white people who have hooked me up with all the millions. So I don't really want to say fuck the whites. Sorry, bro. And it's like, you're going to say that guy is not black, or he gets his card removed. It's just, I don't know.
That's a real conversation. That's a real conversation on social media amongst black folks. whether or not Lil Wayne is a coon, whether he gets to keep his black card, because it's a real conversation.
Well, and here's the thing. I think a lot of white America were happy with Martin Luther King and what he was preaching, and just the general idea. And I know this reduces the man into one sentence, but the general idea that race is not what matters ultimately, it's the content of your character. I mean, that's a pretty good legacy quote to have if you're going to contribute to the world. But apparently that idea has been completely dismissed. People are not on board with that. And guys like Malcolm X, guys like Black Panthers, who's that guy, Frederick something?
Fred Hampton?
Right. Fred Hampton had a movie made. I mean, like, we're going to glorify those dudes and the guys that are carrying around AKs talking about Black Power. And those are the guys?
But those are two different subgroups of people. Like, that's when people have to differentiate the different people. Like, Fred Hampton got murdered, and like at that time, like at the end of the day, like when you said the Black Panthers in the beginning, they were like all black, but then they end up like doing the Rainbow Coalition because at some point they realized they had to like come together with different groups in order to have shit that they wanted to get done. Like, so it's just people just like misuse. Like, people like to use Malcolm X, right? They love to use the man that said the white man is the pig, but right before he died, he said, "I'm going to work with everybody." Nobody quotes that. Nobody quotes that.
No, because if something bad happens, you get to throw your hands in the air and say, fuck it. So if somebody says, well, black people can have their own banks and hospitals, they say, well, what about Black Wall Street? They burned it down, so fuck it. You'd be like, you can do that again, though, right? Like, they can't drop a bomb on you and burn you out of town because somebody whispered that somebody here may have raped a white woman. Like, those same rules don't apply. But nah, fuck it. They burned the town down 100 years ago, so that means we can't have our own banks and hospitals. Martin Luther King talked about what he talked about. Like you said, Malcolm X said, I'm going to work with it, but then he died, right? So, yeah, they killed him too, so fuck it. These are just people who have their own agenda, and they know how they want to behave and what headspace feels right to them. It feels good to just say, I hate white people. So anything that you present to them, they're going to get around it in some kind of way. They're going to just move it off the table.
And racists are full of shit. Racists are full of shit because, like, you can't really hate somebody. Because if I hate something, I hate something. Like, motherfucker, if a black person invented the peanut butter and you're a racist and you eat peanut butter jelly sandwiches, you're the most full of shit person on the planet.
Right. You got to give up everything that they
give up everything that a black person thought of, invented, created, because they're cursed, right? Like, everything they touch has to be a curse. So it's just like,
it depends on what kind of race, because there's different people. Not everybody feels the same way about this shit. Some people are just like, we need to ethnically cleanse the planet, right? And there's other people who are just like, look, I think white people and black people are different on a biological scale. They're different. They have different sensibilities. Other people just don't think there's any difference and everything's the same. And race is just one guy's got more melanin than the other. There's definitely conversations. Well, I don't want to talk to the person who wants to ethnically cleanse the planet. I'd like to know where they are and what they're doing, just so I can keep an eye on them. But I don't really want to talk to them. Even the people who say, well, it's race realism, right? Even the people who just say, I'm citing differences between the cultures. Even that, just at the stage I'm at, it doesn't really matter to me because I don't think color gives you enough information about anybody at any given time. If somebody says, yo, I have a white friend who wants you to meet him downtown in an alley at 2:30 in the morning, are you not going to be suspicious because he said white friend? No, I need more information. Who the fuck is this guy? Or you can trust him. Oh, he's black. Don't worry. What the fuck does that mean? He's black. That doesn't tell me anything. Color doesn't tell me any information that I need if I'm in a situation where I need to trust this person or hire this person or anything like that. I'm definitely going to need more info than just the color of their skin.
Well, you guys mentioned race realism, and I've been accused of being a race realist, which is such a bizarre thing, but I'd like to get your take on it. What do you think that phrase means anything, and what's your thoughts on it?
From what I know about a race realist is a person, like I said, who would be not necessarily saying that they hate one race or the other, but citing biological differences, maybe even the differences in the lineage and shit like that. Your people come from here, your people come from here, so this is why you're different from us. And if that's the conversation, if it's not going to drill down to, so that means we're better than you because we're white or we're black, then everything up to because we're better than you because of our skin color, it's probably decent data. I think you probably would be different if 10,000 years in your background, you had a harsh winter and you couldn't grow crops all year round, so people had to learn to kill animals and wear their skins. I think 10,000 years of that may create a different person than 10,000 years of eating mangoes all year long and laying around naked in dope weather and just chilling. I think those could be different people at the end of that time period.
But of course, race is real. I mean, all this biology, it's all real.
Yeah,
And culturally, it's real. I mean, it's all. So it's such a weird thing to sort of throw that wrench into the system to, I don't know, derail conversations or try to slur somebody. I think what it translates to call someone a race realist is something you say to a white person who speaks about race.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just as
Racist
nebulous as
adjacent.
Nazi.
It's
Right.
racist adjacent. He's not a racist, but he would high five a racist if he had an
No,
opportunity.
yeah, no, but you
And,
raise.
but it's also something too, like you can say something 30% milder than anything that Farrakhan has ever said in line with black people, the black struggle, the black story, black identity. As a white person, you can make, like I said, 30% less. Like, you're not going as hard as he is about it. You'll be a race realist, but Farrakhan won't be labeled a race realist.
Right.
But when you start talking about identity, and that's something I wanted to ask you too, because your boss over at Censored is kind of has this as well. Like Gavin McGinnis is one of the, and I think it's because he's from Canada. They just don't talk. I just don't think they have the same dynamics with race there that we have here. Because that was one thing when I first started watching your videos. It did strike me as harsh, and it did take me aback a little bit, because I think we're so cultured and indoctrinated to be very, very sensitive about race, especially to black people. Like, it feels extra nefarious or extra mean-spirited to address anything with black people as a white person. So I was curious, like, was it a conscious decision on your part, or how did it come about that you kind of, like, at some point you had to make a decision to say, you know what, I'm just going to start talking about this in a very no holds barred way. Like,
Yeah.
I just have to, if I'm going to be honest. And so I think that in this climate and in this culture, it's a particularly brave thing to do, because it's just that nobody is doing it. And that's why, if you do it even a little bit, like I said, it's not going to sound as harsh as a Hebrew Israelite or as Farrakhan, but if you do it as a white person in on behalf of white identity in America, because there is nothing like that, the only thing that they can call you is, okay, you sound like you're in the KKK or a Nazi.
Exactly. It's a no-win situation, because I mean, first of all, if you look at a white guy, he's talking about race. Already, people are on the defensive. They're like, wait, why is this guy talking about race? What does he have to say? What, you think you're better than me? Like, they're waiting to call you all their words. So I look at it like, shit. I mean, I'm not going to be afraid of whatever. For me, there was a switch though, because you get canceled, you get screwed. My name's out there, so now my name's attached to every enemy I've ever had and all the smears they've ever had against me. So I've taken that risk, but I went full into it. I went into the deep end where I get paid to be honest now. So I'm not, oh my God, my boss is going to find out, and oh no, I don't have to worry about that aspect of it. But see, I don't know, man. Race for me has always been like, I don't know if you know my backstory, but like, my family comes from South Africa, and my grandfather's a famous ethnomusicologist who recorded African music in the 20s, 30s, 40s for the first time ever, and created a library of African music. This is the same library that gets accessed by like the guy who made the soundtrack for the Black Panther. Like, he's a famous dude. He's got a Wikipedia page. My father's big into African music. My middle name is in Zulu. I was raised in LA with hip hop, with
And would you
Tupac.
believe a man like that is the devil?
No, I could be. My grandfather and father
believe
could be
that?
great, but like, I could be a piece of shit. But I was raised to like, Magic Johnson was my guy. Like, I met the dude in person. I was a huge Laker fan. I loved Michael Jordan. I loved Muhammad Ali. These are my heroes growing up. Denzel and whatnot. And so for me, it's a little bit nauseating that we have gone backwards so far, where I have to
Yeah.
think of these people like, yeah, I guess Magic wasn't white, but who cares? Why would I care about that? What am I supposed to root for, Kurt Rambis when I'm watching the game? Like, I'd like to think that we could advance beyond this ridiculous part of humanity. But then again, just like with atheism, we have not had a global conversation about race ever in history. And so when everyone has a microphone, guess what? They have some stuff to get off their chest. And a lot of it comes down to race. And the loudest voices, the craziest voices get a lot of pub. You know, you get guys out there that are happy to divide and conquer and profit all the way along. So it's like, what is the goal even? Is the goal like what Martin said? What was his dream? That ain't the dream of people today. They're not sitting there.
Just Hitler on meth, man. These guys are taking drugs and just going down the roller coaster.
Well, I think a lot of those people can, by any serious or sincere person, just be summarily dismissed, because they're not engaging in the conversation because they want there to be any progress or reconciliation. It really is all centered around incitement, and there is kind of an aspect too of there's like a swag about it. It's like a Malcolm X fitted cap. Like people wear it as a badge. It'll get you pussy. It'll make you seem cooler. Like you got so. There is in American history, because of Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey and Martin Luther King, there is kind of like a stylistic mythology about Black identity in America, even though so much has changed and so much wealth has been amassed by Black America since then. Like, right, where it's the landscape of America is not Jim Crow anymore, right? But there's almost like a badge of honor in pretending it is and being somebody that's on the front lines having the fight. And I feel like people kind of dress up. They dress up in that swag and they live action role play like civil rights leader.
And that's escapism too. So they're making this up to create meaning in their lives. And if you point to them and say, hey, the shit you're talking about is not true. You're not being oppressed. It is not more racist now than it was in the past. And you're not some victim. I mean, that is a good point to make, but also what else is true is it does make them feel good to believe in the world that they've created, that they've fabricated. So that's true too. So it's a tricky one how are you going to pry them off something that they rely on spiritually?
I do want to point out, you're going to get a lot of hateful comments and your BitChute comments for shitting on Kurt Rambis. I just want to prepare you.
Oh, dude.
Like, you're not going to, you vote, you were cheering for Magic Johnson and not Kurt, our boy Kurt.
There's only one place more vile and hateful and anti-Jewish than BitChute. If you guys ever want to see the hardcore racists in the world, go to a UFC chat room.
What?
Where,
oh, wow.
Yeah, like, they stream. It's a thing called, actually it's called crack streams or meth streams, and you can watch UFC events. And in the chat, it is the most racist shit you've ever seen in your life, and it's just ridiculous. Like these edgelords, how much oomph can they get off the N-word? Like literally right now, the N-word is being spoken by, I don't know, 5 million people are saying it right now, and it's like, God, what is the power of that word? It's just like.
Oh, it has no power.
Yeah, we've thrown it away. We've replaced the N-word over here. Now we call them Rogans now.
Yeah.
We call them Rogans because Joe Rogan popularized it so much. So now anytime the N-word is applicable, we just say Rogan.
Okay, let me ask you. You know how he got smeared recently with the ridiculous cherry picking of him saying the N-word? Yeah. What do you think about his joke about the Planet of the Apes? Because I contend that he didn't mean it the way it was taken.
Yeah, I think in the moment, when he told the joke, to me, it felt like he was saying it was fucking chaos out there. When I don't think he was referring to Negroes and monkeys. I just don't, I didn't feel that. The way he was telling the story and the way it came across to me in the moment, I felt like he was just talking about the chaos and the danger of being in Planet of the Apes was in that fucking city when he left the theater.
Yeah, and he equated apes come from Africa, therefore I felt like it was in Africa.
Yeah, see, we have a debate about that too. So, right, when you think of apes, right, like, what race?
Yeah, why are
I get
automatically more black people?
Yeah, I just get offended. I've seen some orangutans that remind me of Irishmen. I'm just saying, like, why do we always have to get upset?
Yeah,
like,
it's crazy.
So confused.
Yeah, and the small monkeys, the spider monkeys and stuff, those are definitely Asians. So you can't just, so when people say monkey, we got to be very specific about which monkey and which race that means. every monkey's not a black person. So.
Yeah, we just gotta jump the gun. Like somebody said something about never seen a monkey in the desert, but I'm like Saudi Arabia, B. But that's a whole different story.
No, yeah.
But
just
but look, even if he did mean it in a tasteless way, and made a bad joke, right? Even if he said, "Look, there was a lot of Rogans around. I felt like anything could pop off at any moment. We're seeing Planet of the Apes, and I literally feel like I'm in Africa or on the Planet of the Apes." Like, even if he meant it the way people thought he meant it, does that mean at that point that he just hates black people? He wants nothing to do with black people.
Well,
He's canceling all his friendships with his black comedians.
right. No, but here's the joke. I mean, replace Planet of the Apes with Wakanda Forever, Black Panther. And if he had said, look, we went to see Wakanda Forever, but we were in like some suburb of Atlanta and it was a lot of black people there. I felt like I was in Wakanda.
They would have loved that.
That's the same joke.
They would have
It's
loved
like,
that.
but because apes are not involved, they're not tangentially like part of the conversation. But recently,
apes don't have an ethno state.
right, the monkeypox, they don't want to call it monkeypox anymore, right? Because they're like it's racist, and I'm like, dude, you removing the name monkeypox is the racism. If
Like
we
you're
had a new
verifying that this whole time you thought
Yeah.
monkeypox was related
Exactly.
to
But to be fair, black folks do kind of own the idea that monkeys are a racist epithet. Like no matter what, if you put a monkey on a piece of clothing, there's going to be black people in the world who see that shirt and be like, "What, you a racist? Like, do you think this is you on my shirt, pal?
Right.
It's a monkey. It's not you, buddy." But for some reason, they just accept it.
That's so true. And even in Wakanda Forever, there's like a whole tribe of Africans that
Monkey
emulate the monkey,
Yeah.
right? And
yeah,
they're like making
yeah,
monkeys.
and that's not offensive.
No,
not one
that's
bit
powerful.
at
Oh, it's
all.
funny, man.
That's oh,
No, he's powerful like a gorilla. You see how he be yelling?
That's-
And then the
oh.
black folks outside the theater, they saw the actor who played M'Baku, and they start barking and yelling like in the movie.
Right.
You can't make this shit up. I'm telling you, it's all absurdity. It's all paradox and absurdity. That's the fabric of this reality. It's the goofiest shit ever. The more you look at it, the weirder it gets.
Imagine if there was a sickness that started spreading and it was spread by rats and rodents and it was called rat fever. And somebody puts out a statement, you know what, this is anti-Semitic for us to call it rat fever. So let's just like change the name of this. It's
I'm
like,
not a Jew, but I'll be offended.
No, but
Why?
see,
Who
they
gave
don't-
us the rats?
I don't think they own the animal that other people tried to assign to them.
No, we do. We
You
do.
do? You own the rat?
There's actually a chart that talks about the different physiology or whatever of different Jews. Like there's the demon Jew, the rat Jew. I promise you, it's a meme that had to have gone around on Reddit or something.
Shit, the
But-
rat Jew. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's amazing. I love
learn
it.
something new every day.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody else accepted their animal racial epithet. I thought it was just black folks. Like, what are white people? What animal are white people?
Oh, I got you, dog.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're dogs. But
Well,
wet dogs specifically.
Wet dogs.
Wet dogs. Not just regular dogs. Wet dogs.
they call us devils. I mean, we're not even any animal.
Yeah,
We're talking about
not
animals. We're talking about animals.
No, but he's got a point. Like there isn't an actual animal that's referenced to make fun of.
You guys
of
gotta
white
hang
people.
out. You guys
It
gotta
just
hang
goes
out with a
devil.
bunch of black women.
So
Once you hang out a bunch of black women,
you'll get an animal.
You'll get the
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
wet dog.
So
You'll
even
get
in the
wet dog.
hierarchy of assigning racist things, white people still get a supernatural being and not even just a regular animal. You see, that's some tricknology of the mind right there. That's how they do you. Everybody else is an animal, but white people are the devil.
Now, do you guys take any offense that you are being, placated with overrepresentation in things like movies and like news anchors or on TV commercials? Like, you do realize the intentionality and what is happening here, right?
Recently I was watching something. I was watching a channel, and you know how when you pay for the subscription you don't see any commercials, but if you're watching it for free they play a bunch of commercials. I'm watching this movie and they play 4 commercials in a row. All 4 commercials
Black
had
women.
like a black family, and they were like rolling around on the floor, moving boxes and stuff. First commercial, I don't even see it because I'm not watching the commercials. The second commercial, it's like, damn, another commercial. Oh, and they're black. By after the fourth commercial, I was like, yo, that's just statistically impossible.
Yeah,
There's no way you just showed me 4 Negro commercials in a row. I don't believe you. I feel
not
like
only are they
somebody's trying
black,
to set me up.
they're rich. It's like the Cosbys, every one of them.
Yeah.
It's incredible, but like I would just feel like it's so patronizing at some point. Like I just crunched the numbers on the morning shows of ABC, CBS, and NBC. So, and we got like Michael Strahan and people like that, Al Roker and whatnot. What percentage of those main casts do you think are black? And you guys are 12% of the country.
Probably about 70.
You're 68%. 68% black. And it's like, so my question to you guys is, A, does this do anything for you? And B, don't you think it's jacked up and unfair? And also, don't you think it's like paternalistic and like, here you go, blacks, take this.
Yeah.
Doesn't it make it better?
It's a massage. It's a little massage. You get the little, not me personally, but people feel good. They see it. They're like, oh wow, representation. But because for some reason they can't see themselves in anything else, they have to see somebody specifically black. But I think it's fair in a way that when culture starts to shift and things start to change, people notice shit. Like I don't think anybody noticed that there was never a Negro in Seinfeld.
Right.
I don't think anybody noticed. They just watched Seinfeld. They laughed. Ha, this is an awesome show. And then one day you see a Negro, 2 or 3 Negroes in one show. You're like, why are there so many black people? Like, why didn't you wonder why there were so many white people in Seinfeld?
Well, first of all, those are all Jews, so let's point that out. But
so
also,
that's true.
Yeah, it's very specific. But also, you had black shows back then and today that had very few white people, and there's no problem there. So if you're going to complain about Seinfeld, shouldn't you complain to me about one of those black shows?
No, I think what it is when things start changing, like culture's changing, so people are finding it now a little bit more beneficial to pander to other audiences. Before, the cis white dollar was fine. Now we need some of them gay dollars, we need some black dollars, we need some interracial couple dollars. So anywhere they can farm revenue, they're going to farm the revenue. But the change happens when like Star Wars, right? When they saw a black dude in Star Wars, the comments on the YouTube video is like, oh, that's it. They're gonna take us out of the movie. Before you know, there's a Spanish guy and a black guy in Star Wars. Now white men are nowhere to be found. It's like nobody was worried about this when there were no black people. None of those cis white folks were like, you know what would be cool is if there was some brown in here. And what I heard somebody say, which it was funny, but it's probably kind of true, it said that they're watching these movies to escape reality. So when you start shoehorning Negroes into their fantasies, they're like, I'm watching this to escape the Negro reality. I just want to see a white rolling green hills with Frodo and I don't want to see Negroes bouncing around in my Lord of the Rings.
Right, I hear that. Oh man, but I mean, you talk about representation being good, but like 68% of news anchors in the morning shows is overrepresentation. But I would say, if I'm black in America, I don't think of myself as being 12% of anything. Like I want to be 100% of my ego. Yeah. So like, I'm going to carve out my life and my timeline and my culture that I consume is not going to be 12% black. It's going to be way more. So I don't want to abide by this 12% number because I don't care about the whites in Montana and Idaho and Wisconsin. Like, who cares? I'm me and I want to see shit that relates to me. So that gets down to the fundamental problem of America and this whole melting pot idea of can't we all just get along, sort of Rodney King style. It's like people still care about race.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, man.
But I don't think for me personally, representation wasn't a big, huge thing for me. So I'm glad this came up because I wanted to talk about something that I experienced recently. I saw somebody brought up the movie Mask from the 80s with Cher. It was about the kid who had like a cranial disease and his head was all swollen. And so I looked up the movie on YouTube. I was like, wow, I haven't even thought of this movie in so long. Let me just look at a few clips from it. I see a clip from The Mask, and I remember immediately how emotional it was as a kid. Like, there's a part where he's going to graduate, and he wanted a suit for graduation, but all of his family and friends are like bikers. They're like, we ain't got no jobs, bro. How we going to buy you a suit? So they told him to go just put on your jeans and T-shirt, and we're going to go to the graduation. And he was pissed. He was all let down. They said, just go get me a beer and shut up. So when he goes to get the beer, he opens the fridge and there's a suit hanging in the fridge. And they all came around. We all chipped in. We got your suit. Rocky's happy. He cried, you know. And that was heartwarming for me, right? I understood how this was a family coming together to do something for this kid and make it worthwhile for him. Also, I used to watch a show called Queen Sugar, and it was about this black family who owned a sugar plantation, and they were trying to rescue it from the evil white banker who was trying to take it from their family, all of that stuff. And there were scenes in there where the black folks would get together and they would show that they had each other's back and they cry. And that was also emotional for me watching the show. Like I wasn't crying, but you feel the intent in the scene. And it's hard for me to understand how you can feel the emotional intent in Queen Sugar, but not in The Mask, because those are all white bikers. It's still it's the same energy. It's family coming together to show love and do something in solidarity for each other. The fact that a person would be disconnected from that because of their race, or even the fact that they're bikers and not just regular, whatever, I feel like that's just bad parenting that moves into your adult perception of reality. Because there shouldn't be any reason to disconnect yourself from a group of people showing love to each other because they're not the same color as you. But
I don't think any of this is for black people, though. I think it's, even when you said getting the black dollar, I don't think that it's getting the white dollar of the guilty white person who likes to see that, who feels better about it. So I think something too. I think they polled people in other countries, like, you know, how many what percentage of the American population do you think is black? And like people were saying shit like, I don't know, 50, 60%. You know, because they watch our television, our commercials, and all our stuff, and they get the impression that there's way more black people than there really is. But even to what you were saying, like, it would just be silly to try to allocate, like, okay, who are we putting in movies? Like, it's going to be based upon your percentage of the population. It just becomes silly. Like, there's different movies set in different times, telling different stories with different skill sets. Like, it really shouldn't matter. And I think if we were all enlightened human beings like what you just described, we wouldn't be so obsessed with it, because we could see the larger idea being conveyed. Like, hey, I'm supposed to connect emotionally with this character. And if I can't connect with them emotionally because they don't look like me, then yeah, there's something not firing right within you that you'd have to look in that. You know what I mean? Like, you should feel it regardless.
And you're right. They are catering to other audiences, non-white audiences, but also to I would say at least 50% of the white audience that is going to like the fact that we are catering to the other minority audiences. So it's tapping into that white guilt stuff. And then I'd say there's another like 45% of white people that whenever they see that, myself included, we just sort of roll our eyes and are like, Jesus, like, you know, Black Little Mermaid or whatnot. It's non-stop with this shit.
that was like a good one right there. Black Little, that sent people over the fucking edge. They were like, not our mermaids. Don't take our fucking mermaids, bro.
So I would say the white audience is like 50%, and most of them women, are like, oh, isn't that good that we have a Black Little Mermaid or whatever, because it's like slavery was so bad and I kind of feel guilty about it all. Then the other half is just going, this is fucking ridiculous. Can we please, like, this is like, what are you people doing?
Those are Rachel's.
And then you got like 1% or less of like actual, like, hardened, like, you know, racists, like, who are just actually hateful. But most of the audience is not that. But I would say, like, when it comes to Disney and representation, there's a totally valid case to make that, look, Disney has made a bunch of movies, and if you want to get technical, they were mostly white people. All these princesses, all white. So it makes sense that they would make an Encanto or Princess and the Frog or whatever, you know, Moana. Like, that is perfectly understandable and justified and necessary. I get that. I think the white people have a little issue with going into a previously white thing like The Little Mermaid and making it a black thing.
Yeah, I think there is no rules in this all fuckery, because what was pitched originally in the 90s was, okay, we do need to be more diverse and tell different stories and be more inclusive. That's what Aladdin was.
Right.
Like, we're going to the Middle East. Like, that's what The Lion King was. We're going to Africa and getting James Earl Jones to voice it. And I think it was the woman from Coming to America. I can't remember her name. But they went out of their way to, like, hey, we're going to get a predominantly black cast. Then I think they did Mulan, right? So they did make a conscious decision to say, hey, we've had a lot of Cinderellas, a lot of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You know, let's tell different stories for different cultures. And now we look back and say, wasn't all that shit racist? look how racist it was. Wasn't Aladdin racist? Wasn't the Lion King racist? So the something could be inclusive or racist, and it'd be the same exact thing. It just depends on who's looking at it and what decade.
You know, my rebuttal to that is that's what you got out of Lion King. Like that's what you got out of Hakuna Matata.
Right.
Like that's what you got.
The Lion King is an interesting one. I just did a whole video on it because the story came up in the news recently where the Broadway version of the Lion King, they just fired 2 of the ASL sign language interpreters because they were white, and they were told that it wasn't. It wasn't like.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry to cut you off, but they fired. Is that like really why they fired them because they were white?
It's not like that's them saying that. It's they said you are not white and it's inappropriate. No, they literally said we're firing you because you're not black, and we want everything associated with the Lion King to be black, which like point blank is ridiculous. There's no black people in the Lion King. They're animals.
Right,
from Africa.
animals. Right.
Animals. Exactly.
Right. So the choice to cast black people to play those animals is a choice. It's arbitrary. And I go through the whole backlog of like it was written by 3 white people, it was directed by 2 white people, the music was by a white German dude, it was adapted to the musical by white people. So I have a little chip on my shoulder about white people in Africa and our identity there being completely nullified. And it's like, why would you think that Lion King is a black, or I said it, they view it like the Lion King is an example of black excellence. And it's like, well, then what about the fact that white people made it, animated it, made the music for it, all of that? And so you notice when they did the remake, what did they do? They cast all sorts of black people to play all the speaking roles, and they brought in Beyonce to black it up.
Oh,
and it's like,
queen.
Okay, yeah, if you want to do that, but it's completely artificial and fabricated.
That's when they really wanted to sprinkle the salt over it. We gotta get Beyonce.
Right.
Put some hot sauce on it.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Beyonce's got a little racism in her too. I think my theory is she has white guilt because she's part white and her family used to own slaves.
Well, I've said for a long time that Beyonce is a problem. I think we have an episode of this podcast called Beyonce is White Supremacy.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we do. But that's the side.
If not, we could dive in.
It's in there. It's in there for sure.
But she has gone a little bit hot and heavy with the Black Power crap, with the whole Serena and Venus stuff. She came out and did some huge dance and she's all militant with it. And it seems like
I have a question though. I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
Does she talk? Every time Beyonce's around, I just hear her singing, but I never heard her like a complete sentence. Like
I'm sure she's got some interviews out there.
I've just never seen them.
It's a good point. I don't know if she has much to say.
Like every time her name pops out, it's just the music, and then it's just I've never heard her like make a statement.
That's true. I don't. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. When I see a lot of celebrities talking, and even like Rihanna and even singers, dancers, I hear more from Cardi B than I'd like to hear. But
yeah,
I definitely don't see Beyonce talking very much.
She's just there. Like clearly they paid her to come. She had no problems to come.
I think about it. She might be a clone or something.
I think if we learned anything from the Kanye going against the Jews thing, is that celebrities definitely have handlers that tell them what they should be doing. So I'm sure there's people around her who's telling her, hey, you know what would be cool? Like, yeah, do some militant Black Panther type shit at the Super Bowl. Do this and do that because that's what's popping right now. So I do think there are people that help engineer culture and inform these celebrities what they should attach themselves to. Because I can't take a woman with flowing blonde hair seriously on some Black militant shit. Like, you can only be so Black.
Once you have weave on, I can't look at you as a queen. I can't.
Right. I watched one of her documentaries, which she's obviously super talented and whatnot, but like halfway through, she cuts to a quote of Nina Simone, and she's talking about Black people are the most beautiful people in the world. And then she goes on, she goes, now, not just on the outside, on the inside too. We are just the best people on the planet. Like, it's some just raw racism. And she completely signs off on that. And that's the message she wants to send to people. Now, you could make the case that, look, Black people out there, they need that. Now, even if it technically is racist, it is a boost of self-esteem, of encouragement, of inspiration, whatever. But like, come on, guys, this is straight up racism. And if white people were to do anything remotely like that, it would be called out immediately.
Yeah, it gets
it's
cringy for you guys.
reparative
It gets
racism.
cringy.
That's the difference. It's reparative racism.
Right, reparative rate, but clearly that there is some red flags there. Like you
Because
can't.
white people don't need it. They already know they've
No,
been the awesomest on the planet. Like the white
mhm.
male is the default existence of humans. So he
Well,
doesn't need anybody to tell him that he's awesome. He's Superman. He's everything. Even the
mm,
symbol on the bathroom is just a white male. Everything is that's the default. If you had to tell aliens who lives on Earth, you send a picture of Tom Selleck. That's just that's just what it
uh,
is. So he doesn't need anybody telling him that his melanin is magic and all. Like you don't need it.
Yeah,
right,
You're
right.
that's
fine.
our World of Warcraft issue. We need reminding. That's our minus.
Yeah, yeah. You got to
Well,
prove
I
yourself
think
to
I
them.
think I think where the problem comes in is I do think there was a time in American history where there was a virtue to there was a virtue to trying to help black people have
Mhm.
a sense of identity. Like European Jews, we did it when we were captives in Babylon. Most rabbis will tell you there was no Bible yet. There was no Bible until we were slaves. We never conquered any of those territories that's outlined in Joshua. Most rabbis will tell you that. But there was a time where we were very low and we needed a sense of identity and a sense of pride and something to help lift us up to get us, you know, through what we were going through. And so I do think there's something to be said about, introducing the ideology like, hey, the black man is God, kings and queens, da 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 da, and all of those things that Beyonce is tapping into for fashion. But the story really behind it, or the truth behind it, is those things were always coupled historically with like calls to action, like to be disciplined, to be productive, to like it wasn't just all of these things. Well, you're that no matter what. Like you can't find any black hero in American history that never called black people to do something profound and responsible with their own lives, right? But I think what makes it really offensive and extra poisonous to culture now is it's all of this ego stroking, right? Wakanda, you're this, you're that, you're
Mhm.
wonderful, we're beautiful inside and out. But what about these things that are going on that are detrimental to us and fucking us up? Well, if you talk about that, you're a coon. Like there was never this simultaneous thing to make excuses for every single bad behavior and not to hold anything into account while simultaneously saying you're the greatest thing ever. That's what's new, and it's really really bad for culture. It's really bad for culture. Like anybody that you love, like I compare it to like if you had a friend that was dying of diabetes, you know what I mean? And all the other friends with him are like, yo, dude, you want to start going to the gym? Why are you fat shaming me? Like, stop eating sugar. You're a racist. Why are you being racist to me? Like, no, I love you, and I'm seeing these things that are killing you. And if I really care about you and you overcoming this condition that's going to end your life early, I need to tell you to go to the gym. I need to tell you to stop eating sugar. But we've made this decision to make guilty white people feel better, that we're never going to tell black people when they have diabetes. We're just never going to do it. Like we're just going to completely ignore it while simultaneously injecting out there into culture that, yeah, there's this greatness. And that's why I think it rubs people the wrong way and comes across as so disingenuous and offensive, because we wouldn't do that to any other people. And it is patronizing. It
Mhm.
is, and I do think that there are some people that are insulted by it.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's a tricky thing, man, because it's so unattractive to just bring up negative things. Like sometimes I'll talk about making a video about baby rape in South Africa, and it's like, oh man, stop being a buzzkill. Like, who wants to talk about baby rape in South Africa? But it is important. It is happening, and I can show you the people that are doing it, and it's not the whites in South Africa. But it's like, what are you going to bring this up at a cocktail party on a first date? Like, no one wants to hear this shit. So it's like,
No, but you know what people are going to
mhm,
hear though is that you just said all black people rape babies.
right, right,
Pretty much.
right. So the messenger gets blamed nonstop, but like, I do recognize that both things need to happen. So you could talk about the crime rate in the black community, the parenting situation, their performance economically and education, whatnot. And if you want to get real on that at any time, in one of these centuries, it is not white people's fault. Like some accountability has to happen at some point. as far as having inspirational things to hold on to, role models, whatnot, success stories, I get that. I get, Beyonce's a bit racist, but like, I look at a movie like Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, and it's an incredible movie, and it happens to they cast a black Latin guy from New York to play Peter Parker.
Debatable.
Okay, but I thought it was fantastic, and I have no problem with it whatsoever. And it's like, I get that people need something to aspire to. It cannot just be doom and gloom of like, dude, have you seen the news recently? Like, you guys are not performing well on all these fronts, and it's like, no one wants to buy that. That's a product no one wants.
That's completely true. But again, we're tied down with so much shit. I think a lot of people in a lot of different places will take pretty much anything they can get. We're seeing the same thing with the whole sexual thing right now too, with non-binary people and trans people, and like they're using the same thing. I think black folks in general, but a lot of other groups of people and subgroups of people here have romanticized and pedestalized suffering and the struggle more than they have triumph. They haven't pedestalized the idea of triumph. They've pedestalized the idea of identifying with the struggle, which is why you're supposed to respect the ghetto and never leave the ghetto because that's the hood, yo. And like all this, it's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, you should want to improve things. Improving things is villainy. Like, if you talk about buying the property back and fixing the neighborhood, it's like, nah, son, that's gentrification.
There's a new movie coming out, Creed 3, and the plot of it reminds me of what you're talking about, which is, this guy Creed, the son of Apollo Creed, who by the way, his dad is from my hometown out, Carl Weathers, but he is a big boxer. He has all this money. He's got a big house. He made it out of the hood. But the plot of this next one is there's a guy who was in prison that he used to roll around with as a kid, and they got into trouble, but he went to jail.
They're really bringing this storyline back.
Yeah, and he's coming out. He comes out of jail, and while he was in jail, he became a boxer, and he comes out 20 years later, and now he's got to fight Creed. And it's basically Creed fighting his guilt for leaving the ghetto.
We need new scripts. We got to stop the friend in the jail. Yeah. It's getting old.
Exactly.
In the next Creed, he stumbles onto a time machine and gets transported back to slavery.
No, I'll tell you.
That's what I'm saying.
You know who transported back to slavery? That's Will Smith. Will Smith coming out with a new film called Emancipation.
Right.
Yeah, but he knows nobody's gonna watch it because he fucked up.
But he needs the Oscar nod. So he's gonna. I predict he's gonna play a slave in the next 3 movies.
I mean, how ridiculous! But he made that movie. That must have been greenlit during where he's like, oh, this is the perfect time to talk about slavery. Like, no one's sick of that.
Nobody cares.
Do we really need Will Smith?
That's the whole of blackness.
No, somebody's gonna cry. Black folks are gonna go there and they're gonna cry. Just like they did for Wakanda. Black folks told white people not to go to the movies opening weekend. Like,
of course not.
If you're a real
they
ally,
did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you don't go.
We're supposed to guard the theater. We were standing outside guarding it.
Yep, guard the theater and make sure no black people get attacked or hurt, because that's what the average, white supremacist terrorist is doing, is creeping outside the Black Panther movie theaters trying to hurt black people.
I've never seen so much order and organization for a fantasy in my life. Like, you got whole neighborhoods that need this kind of instructions.
Listen, black people need to be sold on the idea of an ethno state. How else do you sell black people on the idea of an ethno state than to make it Wakanda, give them cool jewelry, give them superpowers? You know what I mean?
What if that's the long game?
I hate dashikis, bro. I hate them. I think white people need to start wearing dashikis. I hate dashikis. I just hate them. I hate them.
That's racist.
I hate them. I hate them.
It's predictive programming. The long game is eventually America wants all black people to go to Liberia, and they're gonna keep putting out the Wakanda.
Bro, I put a dashiki on me straight from Africa. I felt so dirty. I'm like, this doesn't feel natural. What's wrong with this?
That's because you have been hoodwinked and bamboozled by white supremacy, my brother. That's what that is.
Hey, did you guys hear about this California commission that they put together, that they decided that every black person in California deserves reparations?
Like $250,000?
Yeah.
$250,000 for every black person.
I say give those Rogans that money. It's going to help the economy.
I think they're trying to kill black people.
Do you realize what that would do to race relations?
I think they're trying to kill black people. That's what I think they're doing.
Listen, my phone line is gonna go up because I already know the scam line is gonna go up, bro. Because it's gonna be a wrap. California.
Yeah, they're trying to kill black people. They're trying to lower the black population.
California needs to worry about locking up niggas right now because it's wild right now.
Yeah, that's why you're gonna give
Wow.
everybody $225,000 so they
maybe
can.
it might calm them down.
No, they're gonna overdose and murder each other for 3 months and lower the population.
And then all of the money is going to go into probate, and California gets it all back.
Right, exactly.
It's ingenious.
Exactly. They're basically just paying themselves. That's what they're doing. It's
I'm
gonna
never
be
gonna
real
live in
estate.
California.
Oh,
Never.
I've never had a chance to ask. I wanted to ask this question because Kanye's been bringing it up recently, but he's talking about the genocide of black babies with all the abortions. What's your stance on that? That the number of abortions from black women, why that's happening, and who is being blamed for that other than the black women who decide to do that?
Let me tell you what's going on. It's whores. Okay, it's whores.
Okay.
And he's on Plenty of Blackfish just about every day.
Yeah,
I've been around.
He's the resident whore
Let
master.
me tell you something. I've been around women who, this is my third abortion. This is my fifth abortion. Some women scam it. They'll go like, I have a baby, $1,000. Like, I hate it.
Extortion
I hate the whole.
abortions.
I hate the conversation. I feel like give them 3 abortions, after that rape charges. I think everything will change after that.
Damn.
Because I'll give you 2 rapes.
I'll give you 2 rapes.
You got raped
I see you
a
two
third
rapes.
time? Like, come on.
But
No.
surely, isn't it the idea to have planned pregnancies where you have stability?
No.
I'm not saying marriage, but like economic, like you
Mm-mm.
want the baby?
Nope. You know why?
Poor people like to have sex.
Sex is escapism.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you try to teach poor people about how to, wrangle their sex stuff and bring it in, let's make smarter decisions, then you're policing the sexuality of poor people, which is white supremacy and patriarchy.
There's a stat out where it says like a developed country, they're not having as many children's.
But doesn't the black church enforce that same idea, which is like don't
The
just
black
go
church is
crazily?
gone.
No.
It's been burnt in hell
All the
since
black church
1952.
enforces is tithes.
Yeah, tithes. It's tithes. That's
Tithes
the
give
double
us
word.
money, and you're
Yeah.
gonna go to heaven,
Yes,
and all of that.
that's
That's all the black church
That's
is doing.
it.
The black
They-
church.
It's been gone since one could say the death of Martin Luther King was probably the death of black
The black church is basically selling intangible crack.
Yeah,
That's all they're doing.
But
It's-
every problem in the black community, it derives from this issue, which is these kids coming into environments where they're not going to get even a fair chance at success.
Yeah, that's why the abortions are probably working in the black community's favor. First of all, I reject the idea of a black community. There is no black community.
because nobody owns the land.
No, because black folks are not a monolith. They don't have a body politic. That shit does not exist. You can get a lot of people to agree on that you shouldn't put raisins in mashed potato and potato salad, and whether or not you should eat pork. Can you dance? Can you shoot a basketball? How large is your penis? Like those kind of things. But there is no black community. There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. It's just a mythical idea that they use.
Okay, but
so
what
what
about-
I'm saying is the abortions that are taking place. I saw it in an economist book years ago about how they were trying to figure out somewhere in the maybe early 80s why the crime rate went down crazy in the early. It just dropped out of nowhere. And what they figured out was about 17 or 18 years before that was when abortion laws were made legal. So all of those abortions that they had, who would have been 18-year-olds robbing and killing, they weren't there, and that's why the crime rate went down so fast in the early 80s. The abortions that are taking place right now, the people who are getting most of the abortions would be raising psychopaths. And in 1 in every 800 of those psychopaths will be LeBron James. It's not worth it.
Right.
It's not worth it. Let them do whatever they're gonna do. It's mostly destructive to them and only them, and it's probably helping the rest of us who don't want our homes invaded. And I know how that sounds.
It's so weird.
Sounds terrible. Yes.
It's so weird to me that people try to ban it, especially like the religious groups, because I'm like, how did you justify like somebody getting raped? Like where's the justification?
It's not rape. It's not rape. Rape and child molestation, incest, all of that accounts for less than 2% of abortions. These are abortions of convenience. I let a stranger bussing me. I need an
No, I
abortion.
know
That's
that.
what that
I know
is.
that, but
It's
I'm just
not
saying
rape.
like their argument. But no, I completely agree
Well,
with you
the
because I've seen
argument,
plenty of women.
like most of the arguments out right now, it's not based in factual reality. It's just something rhetorically that sounds good, and it's a
Yeah.
way to frame it in their favor. But no, it's absolutely not true that the abortions are happening because people are being raped are having sex with family members. It is this safety net that people know are there, right? So I can be promiscuous and irresponsible, and it's okay because there's a remedy on the other end.
Yeah, man.
There isn't a lot of consciousness about family planning and how is this going to affect the community and my life and my financial prospects. It's a whole nother set of conversations and planning that needs to happen. That it's not just exclusive to black people, but it's prominent in the hood. Like there's plenty examples you could find of black people in different situations where they're making correct decisions, or they're not correct decisions, but they're making sound decisions when it comes to their sexual autonomy and responsibility. But that we've just kind of decided as a society, and we've kind of made our peace with it, that we're never going to fix the hood. Just it's fucked. There's nothing we can ever do about it. We want to live as far away from it as possible, including people that come from the hood. Nobody that's become famous from the hood has ever stayed in the hood, even if they've talked shit ahead of time that they were going to.
And if they did, they've been murdered.
Right. Everybody has moved away. Yeah, I think Nipsey Hussle was the last person. He tried it. I'll open a business. I'll help my community. Fuck it. I'm shot and I'm dead. So I don't think there's a big appetite for people to go and do this. So that's one of the ways that we've made peace with it too, is like, look, it's so much harder to go in and build relationships with people and be transformative. Like, hey, look at your life to a different degree. Like, look, look at your prospects differently. Like, start assigning value to things in a different way, and it's going to benefit you, and it's going to benefit the people around you that love you, and that in turn is going to benefit your community. Like, that's a fucking a daunting undertaking. It's not going to be profitable. I don't think you're going to get paid a lot to go in there and do that. Like, I don't know of any charities that are paying people, 6 figures to go in there and have those conversations. And even then, how many people do you change, right? So the energy and resources it would take to really move the needle everybody's kind of just thrown their hands up and said, fuck it, I don't know what to do. And I think as a society, we've made our peace about it. Like, Kanye is super duper upset about it, right? He sees that, hey, look, there's this, that's our Holocaust, is Planned Parenthood. And I get what he's saying. I totally get what he's saying. But the alternative is all these kids are born and we have more world star videos.
More suffering.
Like if that's the alternative, I think most Americans are like, fuck it. You gotta chop it up, vacuum it out, do what you gotta do. But I don't want the home invasion. It's fucked up, it's cynical, it's sad, but I don't know how
it's needed. That's all.
I don't know how you change culture en masse like that, especially when the deck is stacked against you in so many ways. Like at this point, hood culture is pretty much pop culture, right? So there's all these incentives, right, socially, to go along with really self-destructive behavior. You're going to get a lot of cool points being irresponsible and self-destructive. If you're the one chick in the hood that's like, no, I think I'm going to be responsible with my body, and not the one chick, but you know what I mean. I'm sure there's plenty, right? But there's so many more that would offset it that aren't going to do that, and there's a culture that's out there to reinforce it and reward it, and especially when you think about all of the, if you say that hip hop is really the voice of hood culture, like there's not a lot of calls to chastity. There's not a lot of calls to responsibility. Like
zero. Like, this girl had 3 kids already, 5 abortion.
The last time there was a call to chastity was in the 80s, where it was, we don't have to take our clothes off to have a good time.
That guy
he died of it. Right. And what's crazy, in that video, he was pretending to be straight. You're just
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Right.
Yeah.
Just tell me this is not a simulation with a sense of humor. When the guy that makes the song "We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off" dies of AIDS.
Well, I mean,
It's just
look,
it's a perfect. I mean, of course, it just shows you that was just as much of just a creative thing to do. I don't think he lived by that or believed it. As soon as that song got popular, he was fucking as much as he possibly could because that's just what people do.
Yeah.
That's just what humans do. It's very difficult to break those cycles.
And the coke was good in the 80s.
Oh, that's why it's so hard to break these cycles and change shit, is because we're assuming that there's some group of humans somewhere who are going to do things differently. If I vote this guy in, maybe he'll do better. Or if I go this way, if I align with this group. And it's just people doing people shit. Politicians are pretty much scumbags. It doesn't matter what side they're on. Maybe some of them are trying to do good for a little while, and either they just don't make it through the ranks, or they end up taking a bribe somewhere, and they go to the weird parties where they worship the owl and do questionable shit.
So, they go to the orgies.
They go to the orgies. But this is what humans do. You put them
except
in
for
position.
Charleston White. He's the chosen.
Yeah, well, we got to protect him at all costs. We don't want him to
Yes.
go away. Charleston White is very important.
He's the chosen.
He's one of our saviors.
Are you familiar with him, Devin?
Which one?
Charleston White?
No, who's that?
The new savior.
Oh, wow. He is in for a treat.
Oh,
Real quick, before we get... And this is why I promote abortion equality. Abortion equality is the answer for a lot of this mess. So we're going to let you in on a little bit of the absurdity mining that we've done. We've thought this through. So I think what would help fix people's decisions is if we started having abortions for men and for women, and there has to be some consequences associated with them. So for women, you can have an abortion at any time that you want. You could do it 1 month in or 9 months in, but the catch is you got to chop the thing up yourself. So I think that would incentivize people to really not make a decision at the last minute, because you're gonna want to chop up a clump much better than a fully formed baby. It's gonna fuck with you. It's gonna be very traumatic. And then for fathers, if you really want to be a piece of shit, there's got to be consequences for it. So you can have a financial abortion. If you declare, you know what, I don't want that baby, I'm having an abortion, you have your financial abortion, and that woman can never take you to court for child support. However, and this is where the reality show aspect comes in, where it can be profitable. Every year with police escorts, you are taken to that child's birthday party where you have to look it in the eyes and renounce your fatherhood every single year for 18 years. We can't make it easy.
That's messed up.
It is very messed up, but I think
it's equal.
I think it would help. It would let women keep their abortions. It would make it a lot more traumatic, so you wouldn't have to do it willy-nilly. You can't keep kind of exporting the misery to the doctor. Like, now I'm gonna let the doctor do it, right? Because it's just like if you had to kill your own animals, right? You wouldn't maybe eat as much meat if you had to do it. So we're gonna put it on you. And for the fathers, yeah, you could be a deadbeat dad, but everybody's gonna know about it. It is gonna be up on there. There's gonna be camera crews. It's gonna be dozens of TV shows about it. Like, it would absolutely, I think, help use this social media and reality TV show obsessed culture to maybe move the needle in that direction. That's the only hope, I think.
Well, I'm a firm believer in this whole thing about consent, or a woman's right to choose and all that. It's like, well, what about the man's right? I thought consent matters. It matters when it comes to rape. Why wouldn't it matter when it comes to reproduction? If the man doesn't want to reproduce, I think it's like launching a nuke. You need two people with two separate keys to launch that thing. I mean, I don't get why, you have a womb and you're the incubator for this baby, so that means you get all the rights to say whether or not I reproduce? Like, that's some bullshit.
It's gynocentrism. That's what it is. Gynocentrism. They look at, a woman will tell you, look you square in the eye and say, it's my choice to abort. It's just, and you agree with her. And then she'll say, well, if a man doesn't want the child, she'll say, nope, it's his responsibility. Once you have sex with a woman, it's your responsibility, whatever happens. And they won't see any contradiction in that at all. No hypocrisy.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, it's absolutely ridiculous. But this is what it is. That's why financial abortions for men, but you have to go to the birthday party every year, kneel in front of the child and say, I don't want to be your father.
He knows his dad. It's not like he'll be depressed, like, oh, I don't know that motherfucker.
Nah, I've been seeing him every year.
I've been seeing him every
year.
year. He doesn't want me. I came to terms with that.
I get that you guys are joking about it, but like, there is no such thing as a financial abortion. Like, that's not even.
Well, there should be.
That's why
we support abortion equality.
Should be.
Absolutely should be. Abortion equality. Hashtag abortion equality now. So we got to make that trend. I know it'll probably get us in some trouble. I don't think it's enough to get us banned off Twitter, but it's definitely going to get us some spicy comments for sure. But,
oh my God.
But I do have a clip here of the homie Charleston White, who is a self-described neighborhood activist. He's an advocate for victims in the hood. He goes and talks to the victims' families of shootings and stuff like that, and he's basically speaking out against the violence and gang culture that has been just swept up and accepted by the overarching black community. Like, even people who are not involved with it still think it's cool and shit like that. So he speaks against all of it, and he talks, some things are really taboo, especially about snitching. Snitching is something that, for some strange reason, people in this quote-unquote black community take very seriously. Like, if you're a snitch, even people who aren't criminals, who have nothing to lose by associating with somebody who tells on criminals, they still see you as bad. You're a social pariah if you tell on criminals, even if those criminals are home invaders and killers and only thing you can tell on, I think, is maybe a child molester. That we can deal with that, but everything else, they don't care. If you're a criminal, they would rather protect you than have you take part in sending them to jail. And I found a little clip here of Charleston White explaining his take.
What do a nigga like me do who hate gang members?
Can't hear it.
Oh, hold on, wait. Let me bring that back. Oh yeah, I forgot I wasn't sharing the audio here. Let me get that for you. Get this audio shared. There we go. That should work.
What do a nigga like me do who hate gang members?
You go to the harshest resort.
Listen. It's my dream to put a nigga in jail. Some niggas wake up and on Friday night they going to the club to knock a nigga out. They pride theyself in whooping niggas. It's some niggas wake up on Saturday, get dressed, they plan on fucking plenty hoes that night. I want to put niggas in jail. I want to put the gangster niggas in jail, cause boy, they seem to get together when they get to jail.
Okay, so first of all, I'm already with him. Put him in jail. But the explanation he gives right here, and I'm pausing this also for fair use, the explanation he gives right here is absolutely exquisite and undeniable. You can't lie.
Some of the best things that ever happened to a black man is jail.
Yeah.
He be the best man he can be in jail.
Yeah.
He go to getting his push-up.
Yeah.
He learned how to eat right so the muscles can sit right.
Yeah.
He started writing letters home, thinking about the wrong he done because he need this bitch to send him some money. So he started apologizing for things he should have been apologizing for so he can get that $100 for the month. Then he started calling mama, talking to mama a little bit more. Now the kids can get a hold of him. Kids can't get a hold of him when he free.
No.
Can't nobody find this nigga when he free. Now he telling the kids how to do good in school. Now he telling his little brother. Now he want to try to put the family together. Then he pick up that Quran.
There it is.
Then he grab that Bible. What do a nigga like?
Yeah, so Charleston White is a hero right now, and I think we should protect him at all costs. I love this brother. Everything he says, absolutely everything he says.
Spitting fire. I mean, part of it that I took notice to was the phone call coming from prison is to his mama.
Yeah.
Like, where's his father? Like, maybe if he had a father, he wouldn't be in jail in the first place.
That's a possibility. But they blame the crack epidemic for that, because apparently the war on drugs was just like a paddy wagon driving down the street, grabbing every Negro they could find. They wasn't grabbing crack dealers and crack. It was just every single Negro on the street, whether you was carrying a gun or dry cleaning. The crack, put them in jail. We don't care.
I think they just threw out nets, didn't they?
yeah. They just cast net Negroes and put them in jail, and that's what happened.
Now, one of the talking points we used to talk about on my channel and whatnot was, just obviously fatherlessness is a huge problem, but sometimes you can get lost in the weeds on that and blame the men exclusively. And I think I listened to Tommy Sotomayor a little bit, and he was talking about black women are not innocent lambs in all of this. And it speaks to what you're talking about with some of these whores going to get abortions. It's
That's right.
I mean,
And
so I'm
equal.
not saying it's one side or the other, men or women. Obviously, there's some blame to go around, but like clearly, if young Black generations had stable households and fathers, we would not be seeing anything like the social decay that we witness.
That's true. But the
Yeah.
system definitely to play, devil's advocate here, Negro's advocate.
Mhm.
When it came to the welfare system, women definitely were able to get more resources if there was no man. I don't know. I don't understand that. That seems like an insidious piece of legislature. If you're gonna help people, you say, okay, I'm gonna help you. If you're not making enough money, we'll give you some money to supplement the rent. Like I get all of that, Section 8, whatever. I don't
Right.
know if it's good or bad overall, but if you help people, you help people. But to say that if there's no man in the house, you get more,
Right.
it's a little weird. Little weird.
Yeah, and that's where it gets political, and people blame the Democrats and the left for throwing money at this problem and creating that welfare state and saying, look, you're just saying these people, we can't hold them to any standard. We can't expect anything from them. Let's just, here's some money. Like, it's not even a lot, but like, can you just use it? And it's not helping. And that's my grander point is all the time wasted on blaming white people for everything. Racism is an airborne virus and it's infecting everything. All this bullshit, it might make certain people feel good about themselves and they might feed off that narrative, but it is time wasted talking about the real issues and any solutions to those issues. So someone has to get real. It sounds like the guy you just played a clip from. I mean, God, the dream has come a long way from.
Yeah. This is
This is the
basically
new
where
dream.
we're at right now in the evolution of the Negroid.
Yeah.
So we had Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and now we have Charleston White.
And
Yeah. He
Charleston White got some reach, brother.
He wanted to have little black boys and girls walking hand in hand and stuff. He was dreaming about something completely different.
Oh,
but
no,
like,
No, they
totally
have the
didn't
same
care.
dream. They have the same
Mm.
dream. Delivery's different, but it's the same dream.
Yeah, they both baking
Same
cakes.
dream.
Just different temperature on the oven. They got
Yeah.
different. One of them will add a little bit more sugar, a couple extra eggs, but they're basically doing the same thing. And a lot of people are angry at him for the way he's talking and who he's targeting. But it just shows you how deep this problem has rooted into the consciousness of the average black person. The average black person is not a fucking Crip or a Blood or like they're not into that shit. But they feel like they're supposed to have some place in their heart for that part of the society because they identify with the skin color and the struggle and all this stuff. I don't give a fuck about none of that. I'm not with it.
It's true. You know what it is? I think you could see this whole drift in the life of Will Smith. Will Smith was a non-political, non-racially tribalistic dude, accepted by the white community. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you could look at it in his lyrics of his songs. He wasn't dropping anything with any significance. He was like, summertime and all this shit. And now he's putting out, well, he's slapping Chris Rock, but he's putting out Emancipation and he's getting on his high horse. Like, we're losing all those dudes. You could look at Michael Jordan in a post-game interview versus LeBron James. The difference there,
Right.
or Tiger Woods versus Kyrie or anything like that. Like these dudes today feel the pressure to speak out and be a part of history or some shit like that, and it's not helping anyone. It just helps
They're not
themselves.
They're not doing a good job either because they're just reading. They're reading the page of the book. They're reading the titles, but they're not reading the book.
It's
No,
selling a few
LeBron
extra
James
pairs of
is
sneakers.
not reading his books.
It's selling
Every
a few
time
extra pairs of sneakers. That's about it.
Yeah.
Well, who knows? LeBron in particular seems to be like one of the worst because of everything with China and like all the shit that he's into with Nike. And then he talks. I don't know, man. Look, he seems like I don't know if he knows more and just has decided to play this game, or if he's completely
He's playing the
manipulated.
game. He's playing the game because 1 minute Kyrie was the worst. He did the worst thing. What was the quote, Don?
Oh, he said that Kyrie posting that thing about that documentary harmed a lot of people.
And then now he's like, now he's backtracking and saying, "Oh, all these judgmental things that we did. What about the Cowboy?" Like it.
No, but it's more to the point that Devin was saying because he used it really to ingratiate himself more into that whole debate. I forget who it was because I don't keep up with a lot of sports shits, but apparently some coach or owner or somebody was like at one of these schools when integration started. And he was like, a part of the group that was trying to stop the black kids from going to school. And so that's the only reason why he stuck up for Kyrie. because when they came to him and was like, hey, blah blah blah, Kyrie, it's like, well, why aren't y'all asking me about this dude? I think it's Jerry Jones or something like
Jerry
that.
something.
Yeah, but the problem with that is there's a few problems. One, Jerry Jones is a football owner, so it's a different sport.
Not even says right.
This happened 65 years ago. The guy was 14 years old. He had no idea what he was doing there. He's not a part of it. So the actual premise, the claim is false. But also, there's no hypocrisy here. If an NBA owner had said some vile anti-Semitic stuff in and around the same time that Kyrie was saying it, and the news didn't cover that, then you have a case. This is not that. So this is a guy stretching. He's reaching. He's desperate. And,
Sure.
The worst of all of them is Colin Kaepernick. He's not a smart guy, Kaepernick, and he would just get out there and parrot the most basic bitch like version of what you're supposed to say about whatever police brutality at the time, and like he gets rewarded like he's Shaft or something. Like he's like some.
I don't think he had the game plan. I think he started off with
fell into
something.
that shit.
Yeah, they just like fuck.
Yeah.
To an $80 million paycheck, because experientially he's a white dude.
Yeah.
And
Of
if
course.
he had a different opinion, the black community would denounce him as not black enough in a heartbeat. If he would have came out and said, "Look, I kind of like Trump," he's done. He's done.
They be
But
calling
he's
him Talcum X.
right, but because he's parroting what's become that popular narrative, right? Even if he doesn't believe it, he definitely didn't live it. Right? So he has no idea what he's talking about, but he's hearing the claps. Right, so he's getting the reaction. He realized it, and he got a fucking $80 million shoe deal, not playing any fucking sports. That's amazing. Like, that's an amazing grift.
Yeah, good
Right.
job.
So how do we get past that? It's the money controls everything, and money is the answer to everything. And it's like, how these people aren't going to stop if it makes money. So is there any cause that we could ever hope that will exceed the allure and the gravity that just that profit incentive holds?
Probably not, because the establishment that they've already built is so hungry. It takes in so much. It's so much media to consume, so many products to own. It's just so much to get whipped up in, and it's a very small percentage of people who own and control that shit. And the dream that they're selling to everybody else is to get a small piece of it. Everybody who's looking at this wants to be where LeBron. Well, not everybody, but most people. They want to be where LeBron is. They want a Lamborghini. They want to eat $10,000 a plate meals. They want to go to the club and buy out the bar and like do all this goofy baller shit. They all want a taste of that lifestyle. And to get a taste of that lifestyle, there's going to be certain things that you have to do, certain ways that you have to think. Everybody's going to do whatever they got to do to get to it. So no matter what group of people you align to be in power or whatever their political statements are, whatever, they're going to definitely, almost 100% of the time, bend themselves to whatever is going to be most profitable for them. And there's always people who got more money. The people who have the most money understand the importance of engineering conflict in society. Because the more people are in conflict with each other, the less they look at the upper power structure and say, wait, I think they're fucking all of us over. No, you can keep them between the reds and the blues, the gays and the straights, the men and the women, the blacks and the whites. All of you squabble down there over bullshit, and I'll just keep buying stock and owning shit and collecting revenue for generational wealth. And people,
But it's a cultural thing too, because the beauty about America is everybody gets whatever the fuck they want. People complain all the time, why they get paid so much to play basketball? Because all you motherfuckers love watching them play.
Right.
If you didn't give attention to it, it wouldn't be as profitable. So the reality is you don't really speak with your vote as much as you speak with your dollar. And the reality is you can't sell something that nobody wants to buy. So the problem, as always, is the people, the condition of the people, the values of the people, the attention span of the people. Because if people did the research and were thoughtful about these things, a lot of these people couldn't come out and be so influential. You know, like, you're saying some really ridiculous, retarded shit, and I have no patience. Like, you would just be ignored. But because we wanted to condition people, hey, OJ want you to get your rental car from Hertz. Fuck it, he's the juice. I should get my rental car from Hertz. Because we found it was so effective to put popular people in front of products or ideas, and everybody else will just follow it blindly, they've now applied that to politics and ideology. Like, I'm gonna put this person in front of you. They're gonna say some shit that's patently false, but just like you'll listen to this person to buy some ice cream you don't need, you'll adopt a political idea that's fucking baseless. And so I just think if the interests and the research and the standards, if people raise the bar much higher for the people that they were going to allow to influence them, or raise the bar much higher for what the level of research they're going to do before they buy into an idea, I don't think somebody like Colin Kaepernick would be relevant. People would just be like, okay, dude, you're saying some ridiculous shit. Like, you're really conflating these things.
Ja Rule joke.
Yeah, nobody needs Ja Rule's opinion on this shit right now. We're going to celebrities about opinions and shit that's really going to affect your life, and you're listening to a football player or a fucking rapper or a model. Not that they're not humans, but that it's not that you respect.
They're not experts.
Yeah, they're definitely not experts.
And isn't that what happened in the Doomsday movies? Like, the experts are like telling them, let's go ahead.
And the truth is, nobody will listen to them.
Yeah,
it's the guy in the lab coat that's like, I don't think you should dump that toxic waste in the ocean. And he's like, man, shut the fuck up, you nerd. And then when Godzilla comes crawling out, we ask Ja Rule, what should we do about Godzilla? It doesn't make any sense, but it's just human shit, dude. Eventually, you have to mature.
Humans gonna human.
Humans are gonna human. You have to mature to that degree. There's no group that you can point at that's ever gonna be the full, that encompasses the full problem. And so it's all of us. It's everybody. We're all complicit to some degree. And that's why shit stay just enough for shit to stay the way it is. If you really want things to change, I personally think all work is self-work. I think it starts with ignoring the shit that's bringing stress and issues, problems, unnecessary problems to your life. Devin, you said earlier that the reason that you can speak the way you speak now is because you have a dream job that takes care of all your business. So it doesn't matter what you say on your channel. You can just speak from the heart. I think that's the root of all of our best creativity. When we're not worried about losing our job or how much money we're going to make, is anybody going to buy it? Are they really going to listen? When you can just speak from the heart and be honest, I think that's the best you're ever going to be at anything. So, but that takes people who are fulfilled in some way. The people who are stressed out and angry, they're going to do a lot of finger pointing. They're going to plug in. They're going to watch the news. They're going to watch the shit they don't like even more so they can complain about it. They're not going to try to watch puppies being rescued on YouTube. They're going to find racists that they can be mad at and try to get them canceled by doxing them. And they're going to look for the things that create those negative emotions because they can wrestle with it. And that's what they want to do. They have to be allowed to do it. We can't stop them. You can try to teach them, but that's technically just a game you would be playing with yourself, because you want to be their savior. Like, I want to help these people learn that they're being tricked by the government. That's just a game you're playing with yourself, because we can't convince anybody of anything. They have to convince themselves. They have to be open to changing their minds. And if they're open to changing their minds, they'll get the information. This is the age of information. If there's anything that you don't know about right now, if there's any topic you want to talk about and you don't have the information, it's because you don't want it. It's all there. You can definitely find it. And technically, you can find something to agree with you and something to disagree with you for as long as you're willing to look for it. That's just what's happening out here. There's infinite rabbit holes in both directions. Is Donald Trump a real human, or is he an alien? You can search that shit and find websites about it for the next year and a half, and you still won't have an actual answer. But it's all here.
Yeah, this is quite a dilemma we're in. It seems like the worst among us is wrecking it for the rest of us.
Yeah,
it's the lizard people. It's the lizard people. It's the lizard people.
Yeah, because it's almost like Godfather 3, where he says, every time I try to get out, they drag me back in. It's like we want to progress, we want to advance, and yet, goddamn, human nature, it resets with every birth. You know, the new generation have the same stupid tendencies as every other generation. I don't think it's any worse than it's always been. I just think we're more aware of it, or it's more up in our face. We see it more.
Yeah.
It's humanity, and that's the problem. That's an awkward problem.
Bro, there's this anime that I love. It's called Gundam, and the main storyline, to make a long story short, it's Earthlings versus space Earthlings, and the space Earthlings made the decision that they need to destroy Earth in order for man to continue to move forward. That is basically like the whole ideology, like destroy the planet, man can move forward.
Well, tragedy does bring us together. I mean, unfortunately, but I think that's the value of somebody like yourself, Devin, and other YouTubers or people on media that's self-created, that's not policed by the big companies, even though they're trying to do that to the internet now, because you have to say brave things and have difficult conversations, because until the conscious of people in general is different and is better, it doesn't matter what elections we have. It doesn't matter what programs are available. It doesn't matter anything that's out there. If people's mind states aren't calibrated as such so that they'll go along with what's good, they're just not. So I think that is the good thing about living in the information age is, if people are willing to challenge a lot of the bullshit that's out there, make compelling arguments, I am a bit optimistic that, I think over time, the truth will win out, and sound reasoning will win out eventually, even if it's maybe not in our lifetime. But the more regular human beings have the ability to access this tool called the internet and put information out challenging popular narratives that are completely incorrect or untrue or divisive or making us all hate each other and be distracted over the bullshit, I think that there's some hope that the consciousness of people can be raised, and eventually we can live up to human potential. Like if we weren't bogged down by all of this bullshit, I think we would have already colonized Mars. I think we would have already solved world hunger. I think we would have already cured cancer. Just our priorities aren't straight. Like Don said earlier, we're figuring out how to make sure 5 people have a job for that one screw, instead of just figuring out, well, what's really helpful, what's really moving us forward. It's like, nah, let's just maintain the status quo for as long as we can, and basically just hopefully everything doesn't fall apart before I die. Like, I want to live comfortably. Whatever happens after I'm gone, who gives a fuck? But as long as I'm comfortable for now, I'm with it. And I think that mentality is really, it's ensuring that we're all kind of going in this direction that we see is bad for everybody, but very few people want to stand up and try to start rolling the stone in a different direction. It's like, if I try to start, moving humanity in this other direction, the shit's probably gonna crush me. There's just too many people and too much force behind it that's already sending us in this direction we're already headed.
That's
and I think that's.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I think we are heading in the wrong direction, and I don't think I could have always said that. I would have always been more optimistic about things, but it's a scary thing to think that, like, things are getting worse on several different fronts.
Pennsylvania got it bad too.
Whether you're talking crime or suicide rates or the economy or race relations, it's like, observably things are getting worse. And it's from an individual perspective, and also in terms of large groups, and so it's really kind of naive for us to hope for a better future when, well, it just seems, I don't know, like, whatever is happening now, it is not the correct path that we should be on, and the solutions are not really evident. It's not an easy task to turn this thing around, because the momentum of millions and billions of people and history itself is kind of hard to change course on. It's like the Titanic.
Yeah, but you never know, man. There's always that X factor, because, like, look what's going on now. Everybody's worried about a nuclear war. They said your boy Putin fell off the stairs and peed on himself, and then China's worried about people overrising them, because the people are getting tired of the COVID restrictions. So, like, they can't even start wars right now because of what's going on. So it's crazy.
I think the future is definitely going to be intentional communities. I think the good thing about the internet is people that are paying attention have kind of figured it out, that everybody who's making decisions on our behalf or telling us what to think is completely full of shit. And I think it's going to cause more and more people to check out. I think you're going to see, like, neo-Amishism start arising. People are just going to be like, look, whatever your philosophy is, you could do it along race, you could do it along religious ideology, political affiliation, whatever you want to do, but you just recognize that this grander ship that you reference, hey, it's like the Titanic. I see where you motherfuckers are going, and I want no parts of it. So I just want to gather up the people that I've built relationships with, that share my values, that I love, and we're going to just go off in the cut and do our own thing, and you guys can do whatever you want. But it's definitely the doom train. It's a one-way ticket. Like, nobody's trying to pump the brakes. Nobody's trying to change course. And it almost seems like people are just doubling down. Like I think about the Ukraine thing. Like we sent $50 billion, right? Nothing's changed. And they're just like, okay, well, did we waste the money? No, let's send another 40 billion. If we send 40 billion, that'll fix it. And the average person is looking like, well, you know all the problems we have here that we haven't solved, like that money would be put to good use. Like, what are we doing? It's clear that the people that are making decisions on our behalf don't give a fuck about us. And I think that's going to cause more and more people to come to the realization that voting is not the answer. Like you should vote, I guess, you have that just for the sake of the people that don't have a choice, right? Like you should exercise it. But to think that getting Trump in there or getting Gavin Newsom, whatever side you're on, to think that that person's going to get into power and not if the past is prologue, to think that they're not going to use that position just to enrich themselves and their family as opposed to solving your own problems, like you're naive. Like that's not going to be the solution. The solution is going to be people taking responsibility for their own lives and their own communities. And the reality is everybody doesn't want to do that. And we waste the most energy talking about pockets of the population that have clearly said, fuck it, I'm not trying to do that. And we use it as like a political football. You know what I mean? Like just, but we really care. No, the Democrats like us, so we're going to vote for them. Yeah, but those cities where black people are suffering the most have been democratically controlled for 50, 60, 70 years. Nothing's changing. Clearly, they don't give a fuck. Well, the Republicans, they'll get in there. Now, I don't think they give a fuck either. It's just what rhetoric is going to be used at any given moment to get people on board, to get us what we need to get us over the line. But that's it. That's the election. And in terms of any like pragmatic solutions being crafted to help, we haven't done that in this country since the 70s. I think pretty much since the 70s, we've been having the exact same problems and conversations. Like when I found out there was an electric car documentary from the 70s, I'm like, I'm done. done. We were talking about this shit in the 70s and we clearly don't give a fuck. And a dude was like, look, I can figure out how a car can run off water. Oh yeah, I gotta take you off of here. Dead. You gotta go, dude.
Dead.
You are disappearing. Yeah. So we're not interested in solving problems. The people we put in power are not going to solve problems for us. I think really the future is people who want the information, get the information. Yep. And just clicking up with people that are on your level of consciousness and actually want to put forth the energy and effort to do something positive within that group. But on a large scale, yeah, the culture and the mechanisms in place guiding us is you're absolutely right. It is the Titanic. It's headed for a glacier. It's just a matter of when.
And the perfect example of this, the evidence of this, is the fact that your YouTube channel is so underpopulated. Meanwhile, if you guys made a channel dedicated to finding white racists and condemning them and like hyping that shit up,
we've been thinking about it. We've been thinking about it.
Yeah, we've been thinking about trolling.
We call it thug gossip. We've been thinking about it.
Trolling the algorithm a little bit. But like he said, intentional community. That's why the opening song and our most spoken line on this show is metaphysics or we're fucked. Something has to change humans on a cellular level for them to understand what's happening and how to switch things up. I don't think it's going to be just any political party. It's nothing you can write down the most beautiful thing on a piece of paper and add whatever ism you want to the end of it. It's not going to work. Communism, socialism, republicanism, Democrat, it doesn't matter. It's the same humans attempting to carry it out. They're building a Rube Goldberg machine for nothing. It's a bunch of really complicated fuckery. So the only way people are going to, I think, understand this overarching idea is all the bad shit that's happening right now is forcing people to look at things differently and say, maybe I should buy some land and just put my own people on it. That's how they're going to start figuring out that it doesn't matter how you organize them if the people are the same people. You could say, you know what, I only trust white dudes and their white wives who are traditional and don't have any tattoos, and let's build a cult with them. Let's build a cul-de-sac, a gated community, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same shit. Let's do it with just those people, and you do one with just black, gay, trans people, and you do one with only disabled people, and see if it's a utopia. See if it's perfect, or see if those people are untrustworthy and fuck you over and they steal your fruit, and then you get to say, oh wow, well maybe it's not just the people outside that's fucked up, because the black gay people fucked me over too. And then we'll start to learn that it's a bigger problem with humanity itself. But the first step, the next step, I think, is massive disconnection from major cities and societies. I think people are going to start to pool their money and buy more. It's already happening. I mean, that's what Tim Pool did, right? Buy some land and just bring my own people here, and we'll just do it this way. That's pretty much what a gated community is. It's just separated by finance instead of political ideology. But they have a fucking homeowners association that tell you what color you need to paint your mailbox. That's a cult. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I think people should organize themselves in whatever way they think is the proper way to organize humans and see if it works. And when you start to encounter your own problems, maybe you'll start to understand that it's all of us, not just some of us.
Preach.
In my opinion, that's just what I think.
No, that's lovely, man.
This is the way.
I hate to be a prick, but I have an appointment I got to get to, and I've thoroughly enjoyed conversating with you guys, and I'm a fan. I'm gonna subscribe, and this has been very fun for me. So I want to thank you before I dip out. But
absolutely, man.
Thank you.
Definitely appreciate it. I'm glad you were able to make time for us. It was an absolute pleasure. Much respect for coming on, and I feel like I learned a little bit more about you. And I dig it, man. I'm glad we did this. I'm very happy we did.
You're all right with me, Devin. I like kangaroos now. You made me enjoy loving kangaroos now.
No, that's a fun ass conversation, and it's got my wheels turning, and I'm happy to have had it with you guys. So cool, man. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I'll check you all later.
You too. Hopefully we can talk again soon, man. Enjoy the day.
We appreciate you,
awesome.
Devin. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, bro.
Peace.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
You know, we got a visit from God in the chat.
I did see that. He was wilding out in the chat. I was like, wait, who's over here with all these comments, bro?
I was talking to God.
Yeah, I saw he said something about Kali Yuga, and Doobie's like, I don't live in Cali. I'm not from Cali, son. That's the perfect response too.
Yeah, that's good.
Perfect response. But yeah, man, this was excellent. I feel like a goalpost has been crossed, thanks to all the legwork and the diligence of Yakub Cavemenistan, who made that happen for us today, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. And this is definitely pulling us into another space, because this shows you what the internet does, man. Like I said, I've seen his videos before. I've watched a bunch of his stuff, and I've also watched other people talk about his stuff. And I knew I agreed with him on a lot, but there were some things I was like, I'm not sure. But to hear him talk and explain himself from his own perspective, I have to say, man, like it was a great conversation. It didn't feel awkward or anything. I didn't feel like he was holding anything back, and I felt like he was being completely authentic. And
absolutely, and that's one of the things I love about that dude, is that he's just sincere, and he touched on that a little bit when in referencing our channel. It's like, look, man, you guys would be doing way better if you just leaned into the fuckery. If you just leaned in a little bit. You blackened it up a little bit and told people what they want to hear. And it's a much slower bubble when you're like, look, we're just trying to establish credibility. Like when people hear us, they like, oh no, that's really what they think, right? And that's why I have a great deal of admiration for that dude. Is I think in his career of putting his opinions out there, that's been the consistent through line. Whether it was he's talking about his beliefs about the lack of God, the Young Turks, the Innocence Project. He always is, hey, this is really what I think. And he's pissed everybody off, and that's the mark of, a false prophet. A false prophet is just going to tell you what you want to hear, and I think that hopefully the future is there's more people that have an appetite for sincerity. Listen, I'm going to say some shit that might hurt your feelings. I'm going to say some shit that might disturb you. It might disturb your sense of reality. It might challenge some of these things that you've held sacred that you think are true. It may even be a little bit painful, but I'm not doing it just because I want to provoke you or because I hate you. It's because there's so many people telling you bullshit. So there's so much bullshit in circulation. When somebody tells you something sincere, it comes across as like it's from another planet. Like, what is this? This is so beyond the pale. It's out of left field. It's like, no, it's just an honest opinion. And I'm glad he got to touch on some of those things, because I think it's really easy for some people to dismiss him as, oh well, he's just a white supremacist that hates black people. You've seen the videos. He disagrees with everything, and it's like, or is he somebody that's seeing all of this absurdity that's going around in culture and just feels that epistemic responsibility to say, look, I got to check this. And people are talking cash shit online. I got to respond in kind with a little bit of my own cash shit. And that's just how the internet works. But like, as a person, yeah, it was great to hear you two go back and forth and see all of, you know, there was no, there was no, hey, we agree about everything, but there was also no, like, how dare you? Right, you know what I mean? Right. It's like, oh, cool, that's what you think, cool, that's what and I think that's the reality of human beings, and we're all being sold on this bullshit.
I'm tired
we all hate each other.
The back and forth doesn't solve anything. It's just you're still complaining at the end of the day. Nobody's solving anything.
It feeds the algorithm.
And well, the back and forth I think could be productive if there's a goal in line. Like if there's a preamble before you engage in the back and forth, like, hey, we're here to solve this. Like, you know, this is the main goal. And if people really have a heart and a passion for that, even if they are diametrically opposed on any number of issues, they're going to unearth some truth and come up with some positive routes to improve things if they're sincere and have that honest exchange. But I would say 95% of the internet is not interested in an honest exchange at all.
No,
it's all hooray for me, fuck you.
And then they'll get their crews, their little minions together, and it's nobody's learning anything. It's just the back and forth minion fight after that.
Well, I think what we did here today was powerful for a lot of reasons, but especially because with the show being arranged the way it is with all of us, and the fact that all of us are able to see eye to eye and connect and build and bond together, it's like, yeah, but people can write that off and say, well, oh, y'all are friends, and like they make excuses for it. But to bring in somebody who has already created an identity, a set of politics and ideologies that a lot of people claim are flat out white supremacists, like, oh, you just hate people of other races. There's I guarantee you that there's people on the internet right now who have been put in the same folder as Devin, who wouldn't even talk to us. They would only take the opportunity to call one of us a nigger or something like that, because they have completely sold into their hate. No, this is what I do. That's my job, is nigger hating. So if you're gonna put that person in the same folder with a person who came on here and had a dope ass 2-hour conversation, what is the world?
2.5 hours.
Right.
Let's give him all his credit.
Right.
Look, he agreed with my peanut butter sandwich. So.
Right. What is anything if you can put those two people in the same category? So.
Right. And that's the. Yeah, dude. That's the danger and the downside of how the internet works at this stage, and how we've allowed big tech and politics to frame the conversation and to give people identity so easily. And like I said, if I hear anti-Semitism one more time, I'm just gonna blow my top. It doesn't mean anything at this point. If you call everything anti-Semitism, nothing is anti-Semitic. If you call everybody a white supremacist and a racist, then nobody is a white supremacist or a racist. And I definitely feel like he's one of those dudes that was out there on the internet that totally got fucked over and mistreated and you know, unfairly labeled. You know, he got completely banned from YouTube, you know, on really bullshit pretenses that all have to do with this culture that's not interested in substantive conversations or getting to the truth of the matter. It's just whatever feeds the tribalistic algorithm. Let's put labels on people. And like you said, he clearly engaged in a conversation with nothing that anybody could say is anywhere near the realm of what could be called white supremacist. It's just nonsense.
Yeah,
no,
facts.
I've been around rednecks, B. No.
Yeah, man. I definitely dug that. I'm glad we did it. I'm happy he was able to make time, and hopefully we can talk to him again, man. I definitely love to pick his brain about some other stuff, and he seems like he could definitely be a friend of the show, man. Friend of the show. So thank you again for the work that you did to make that happen. It is greatly appreciated. I feel like that was a powerful thing that we accomplished today. Yeah,
Dola, let it be so.
Yeah, this is the way. This is the way. So you brothers enjoy the rest of the evening, and may this coming week be extremely abundant and productive, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
All of us.
All of us.
Metaphysics is going to have to be the quote-unquote religion of tomorrow. If it isn't, you're fucked. Totally and absolutely.